From the 20, McBride off the play fake. Pass picked off, back to the end zone to the touchdown. Touchdown Baylor. J.T. Woods, a 20-yard pick six.
Welcome to Sycamore 365 Radio.
Play clock at 2. In the pocket. Intercepted! Jumping the route is Christopher Smith. A foot race. Can the quarterback catch him? He cannot. Pick six, Georgia.
Sycamore 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
So 2nd and 6, back to the ground, Charbonnet. A couple of blockers in front. He explodes in. Touchdown UCLA. Bruins lead for the first time.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Milton comes out to the near side. Ward's going to take the direct snap. Ward gets to the outside and gets in. What do we have here in Tallahassee?
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. Sycamore 365 Radio and also YouTube 365 Sports. Everyone back together again after a lengthy weekend, although there was a lot done, a lot accomplished, a lot seen, a lot of evidence. It was nice to be able to now take some games and look at them. What do they mean? Not to overreact, to underreact, but to also react in some particular way. Paul Catalina to my left, Craig Smoak to my right, David Smoak, good afternoon. We take you up until 6 o'clock. There is some new movement when it comes to the Big 12 and what the future is based on the University of Houston, looking at the possibility, in fact, giving the chancellor the ability to try to, well, what he wants to do when it comes to conference alliance. And, of course, that's the door opened up to the Big 12. Brigham Young, Houston, Cincinnati, and also UCF. What things we cannot do, it's 3 days we haven't been on the air since Friday, is try to wrap our arms around everything at one time. The YouTube chat room's open, 254-339-1122. The text line's open. The call's available as well. Where do you guys want to start?
There's so much, Smokey. The biggest thing from the weekend I saw is that maybe we don't know as much as we thought about a lot of these teams going in. I wonder how much there's still kind of a residual hangover from a weird year last year. I wonder how much the new coaches have really, and that means second-year guys have really gotten into their programs, seeing as they're only one spring in and those practices are important. There's just a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, I would think, too, there's, the fact that it's just the first week and everybody's expecting to see their team at, perfect strength and operating on all cylinders, and that was clearly not the case for several teams this weekend. I mean, some of them you can easily see, no, this is going to be a problem all year long. For others, maybe concerns that you had have been answered already, and you go, oh, you know what? That's going to be a pretty strong area for us that maybe I wasn't expecting or better than I expected. But I think a lot of questions got answered, but there's still many more to be answered along the way over the next few months. But it was great to see the lineup of games. There were a ton of games on over the last few days. Watched a lot of football, and it was nice to see. It was nice to see fans in the stands and see the typical entrances that we get and the typical chants and the stuff that we missed out on last year. So some upsets, some surprises, some things that you just figured were going to be the way that they were, but overall a really banner opening weekend for college football.
We know Alabama is good, and they flexed their muscle. Georgia with a huge win early against Clemson in a game in which no offense scored as far as a touchdown. Ohio State, we saw that Thursday night with Minnesota, the weapons they have. Oklahoma had to kind of, stave off, no question about it. Tulane had the ball down 5, and the Sooners survived, and they'll tuck it up and touch it up or whatever, tweak it up, or they're not going to be unbeaten very long. A&M, I think they handled their business. Haynes King, the young quarterback with 3 picks, but he's a gunslinger. He's going to do that, but he's also one of those that will wash it away like a good kicker or a corner, or a quarterback when they throw a pick. Notre Dame looked good. I know Florida State. Now, what bothered me about Notre Dame was the fact they gave up a bunch of big plays, but then yet again, so did Florida State. Paul, Craig, and I were texting back and forth. We're not going to single in on that game for too long, but it was great to see Doak Campbell in that mode, that emotion with the Bobby Bowden, and of course a big game. And Florida State, maybe they're that next level back up to where, not where they need to be yet, but at least that was a nice little, more than a pulse ball. They look pretty good.
Well, and it's nice to see that because they haven't looked like that in a while. And look, for the stadium hasn't looked like that since well before COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, so that was a big deal to see that, in the student section sold out for the first time in, a couple years. I mean, so that was nice to see that. Notre Dame is going to be all right. They went from Clark Lee, a defensive coordinator who was not as aggressive, was more just about punishing you with the front 4, to Marcus Freeman, who is a Dick LeBeau blitzing son of a gun, man.
And if you don't have the people on the back end, or you don't get to the quarterback, then you're going to give up the plays they did. Iowa State, Iowa this week is probably one of the highlight games. Oregon at Ohio State.
Well, it is. It's got College Game Day there.
Well, yeah. It's the number 9 and 10 teams, depending on which poll you look at. I thought Texas looked really sharp, considering first game for Sarkisian. I like what I saw with Card, their quarterback, and of course Bijan Robinson was special as well. We're getting a lot of you on the chat room. Washington is overrated already. They play at Michigan. Utah, Brigham Young ought to be interesting in that battle of Utah coming up this weekend as well.
Yeah, actually, sometimes just depending on, kind of the status of the games, whether or not it's a big matchup or a major upset, I'll go and sometimes, if I had the time, listen to some other post-game shows and just kind of see what, the natives are saying, so to speak. And so that Washington one was a big loss, obviously. And I had some time, and I just tuned over to the Washington broadcast, and man, they were.
Oh, I bet
they were not happy. They were pretty upset, and I was just thinking, that's week 1, and that's how you're feeling. And some teams, it's not going to get any better. Look, that was the season that we had to cover last year with Baylor. Was you had the Kansas game to look forward to, really, and that was all you really expected as far as wins go. But yeah, Washington, I'm sure they'll win a bunch of games, but that was a definite kick right on opening weekend.
There's only one thing that Jimmy Lake can do to ever live that down, and it's eventually win a national title. Because then if Washington wins under Jimmy Lake, they can be like, man, how far they've come. They lost to Montana, and now they're national champions. But he is never. I mean, he could win almost all the rest of them this year. And that one is going to just hang around his neck.
You almost have to.
It's good. They got a lesser – I mean, it's only Michigan this weekend.
Yeah. So one note about Montana's win against Washington. It's the first FCS upset over a ranked FBS opponent since 2016 when North Dakota State beat Iowa. In Iowa City, Iowa was ranked 13th, and we know that North Dakota State is really, really good. Since the FBS and FCS split, and I used to get them all mixed up because I just call them the alphabet. That is only the 5th time that a team that was FCS beat a team that was FBS. North Dakota State beat Iowa. We mentioned Montana. A 5th time. Eastern Washington upset Oregon State back in 13. James Madison beat Virginia Tech in 10. And Appalachian State, that famous blocked field goal against Michigan back in the day in 2007. We'll take your calls, your text, your chat, and much, much more if we possibly can. Let's put a bow on Baylor. winning at Texas State. It wasn't pretty. At times it was not pretty at all, 29-20. If you tried to watch the game on the broadcast, it's been beaten down enough. It was awful at best, and unfortunately also affected a possible touchdown, Josh Fleeks, because they didn't even have a replay booth, which is inexcusable. But that's the broadcast. We could bring it up. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I saw I think it was Reddit, which there you go right there. I mean, like so, but yeah, Reddit, one of the administrators or something for their college football site tried to paint Dave Aranda as though he was like some big whiner over this camera thing. And I mean, he handled it in no way, shape, or form like somebody who was trying to make any excuses or complaining in any way. So I don't know what that agenda was for the Reddit writer, but yeah, or I thought Aranda handled it well. He was disappointed, obviously, that Josh Fleeks didn't get that touchdown catch. I think it would have changed perhaps the course of the game, but it is what it is. And like you said, that broadcast has been beaten down over the last few days. There's not really much more left to say on that.
I wish I would have known, and we learned it the next morning, that a lot of college students were involved. That still doesn't leave an excuse for ESPN, ESPN Plus, or whoever ran it. We do midway football high school games at home when they're at home on Fridays, and the broadcast of 4 high school students, 3 teachers, was immaculate compared to what we saw. I mean, it was hard for me to know what the hell was going on.
We didn't see the ball half the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't know where the ball was. They completely missed JT Woods' interception, pick 6. I mean, we didn't see any of that on TV until he was already scored. He had already scored. We didn't see the pick. We didn't see the run back. We just saw none of the play until he had scored. I mean, there was just thing after thing after thing, from the colors of the screen to the audio to no replay. I mean, it was a S show. I'm sorry, it was. And I, too, heard about the students being involved. And initially I was like, okay, I'll cut them a little bit of slack. But there's also a lot of adults involved as well. And that's, if people are paying money, you can't put that product out there. But for Baylor, going back to them, hey, a win's a win. I think the offense obviously has a lot of work to do. The deep passing game was harped on by Aranda and Bohannon not being able to connect on those shots. I do think he shows some good arm strength, some ability to hit some underneath shots that maybe haven't been there in the past because of who's been at quarterback. But Gary has that arm strength and has that zip. Got to connect deep, though, for this offense to truly be a threat. Otherwise, the big performances that Ebner and Abram Smith had will be totally negated because teams will just load up knowing that Baylor can't hit them deep, and they will keep the receivers and tight ends in front of them, and they will smash down on those running backs. And then you're in a whole world of hurt because you're not going to, the only thing you can do is show that you can stretch the field, and they did not show an ability to stretch the field consistently on Saturday.
Well, he did show he could.
He could.
With his arm strength,
but
which is nice, and that's an addition. But then you're going to have to hit some of those. It's kind of like a pitcher who throws 98 miles an hour but can't hit the strike zone. But I thought they probably also toned it down his first game. But it would be nice to hit a deep post or fade or something like that to actually complete one of those passes.
Yeah, I don't think that Jeff Grimes wants to show too much in these first 3 games. I think it'll be a gradual thing. And plus, they do have to remember, Gary Bohannon was just named the starting quarterback 2 weeks ago. So it wasn't like he charged through spring and he was the guy and he was the guy and he was the guy. He wasn't. And so he took the job a couple weeks ago, has been the starter for 2 weeks about total. And yeah, they're going to have to work on some things. I think there were a lot of good things in that. Like the offense basically showed you, we're going to run at you and we're going to keep running at you. And 2 guys are going to get 20 carries a game, which is really good news. If they can do that, probably not every week because there's going to be teams that are not going to allow you to get 2 guys at 20 carries a game. But if that's your goal, that's a good goal to have.
If that's who you're going to be, then that's your personality. That's who you are. That's your identity. But just get better. But you're supposed to do that as well against someone like Texas State, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, and they've got Texas Southern this week. That's another school that you can maybe not show everything and, let out some stuff later, and then Kansas State, but they got to get better.
They ought to route that.
If they don't blow out Texas Southern, man, then there's problems.
Yeah.
I mean, they should have blown out Texas State. They absolutely, from their own errors, let that be a close game. I mean, kicking the ball out of bounds twice, stupid personal fouls, untimely turnovers. I mean, the turnovers all even negate because, hey, that just happened. Somebody makes a good pop, like the Gary Bohannon fumble. That was just a good hit, helmet on ball. But some of the unforced errors, those were the things that cost them an opportunity to extend a lead or to put Texas State in a precarious position. And instead, they just gave them free yards and set the table for them. And, we're kicking field goals rather than scoring touchdowns. And so, yeah, that's something that you can't do past this weekend, or you're gonna have a loss on your schedule.
It is surprising to me. I did not know that ESPN Plus on the broadcast quality. I did not realize that they had not really much to do with it. And that if you watch some of the Baylor stuff on ESPN3 that's locally produced and the video and all that, they do a hell of a job. Makes you appreciate a lot more. And that's not the only one. There's a lot that do a pretty good job. A couple of notes, Baylor football, then we're going to get your calls, text, and chat. Casey Phillips, offensive lineman from a local high school in the area from Franklin High School, announced that he was giving up football. Also, Zach Pyron, the quarterback out of Alabama, Pinson Valley, who was an early commit to Sean Bell and Baylor. Sean Bell, the quarterback's coach, worked on him quite a bit. Then he got a lot of national attention, made some trips, getting all sorts of offers, announced he's decommitting from Baylor and wants to probably play closer to home. I do know this. I spoke to his father, Chaz, last night. He told me that there were a couple of things inside the family that he felt like it was better, or Zach felt like it was better for him to stay home. But I also know this, that Sean Bell said, I'm not giving up on this. Yeah. He's not giving up. He doesn't look good. I'm not giving up on getting Zach Pyron to play for Baylor. But again, the odds don't look very good at all. So good luck to Zach, whatever he decides to do.
Yeah, I mean, he was visiting Alabama like a day before he decommitted, and I don't think he's got an offer yet, but I know that Arkansas has offered recently, and there's been a couple of other SEC schools that have offered recently. He's from Alabama, so, I mean, that's what he grew up in. And, I think realignment comes into play here. I mean, believe it or not, I think the fact that the Big 12 has an uncertain future, and then you look at who they brought in, and to us, we're hoping the Big 12 stays alive, obviously, or at least, covering Baylor primarily, that they land somewhere in, the power landscape. But the Big 12 making the decision that they have, that should become official later this week. You look, and if you're a high school recruit, you look at UCF and, BYU and them coming in versus playing Arkansas or, Ole Miss or whatever. And look, I get it if that's some of the thinking, but there's a lot of things in play there with that. And like you said, they're not going to give up on it.
I do think there's also some things that deal with when it comes to the family. It's not pressure from the family. It's kind of something that they're dealing with. And so good luck with him, whatever he does. But yeah, the NIL and in the first weekend might have had something to do with that. From the 817, I was at the game. 2 of the 3 deep shots were very close. Timing issue with practice is all. The arm is there, speaking of Baylor and Bohannon. Iowa State won by just 6, right, against an FCS team. Yeah. Northern Iowa can sometimes jump up and bite you a little bit, and they survived too. You don't hear a lot about that, but they survived as well.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa State looked like they were, a lot of teams who probably didn't look good were holding things back this weekend, right? Some of them were. And I think Iowa State was one of those that was. I think Baylor was too. I don't think Baylor was out there showing their full display, but I think Iowa State was playing a little conservative. Yeah, it was definitely a tougher game than expected. They just didn't get the type of consistent production, connection offensively. Still played pretty good defense. They had a couple slip-ups, obviously, that allowed Northern Iowa to make some plays and be in that game since it was so low scoring. But I think we'll see a lot more, obviously, from Iowa State this weekend against Iowa, a game they have been unable to win for the longest time. Iowa looked really good on opening weekend. I mean, they cruised no problem. So that should be a great game. But I think Iowa State will be fine. I think that was just your typical – they struggle with Northern Iowa. They struggle, remember last year they lost to Louisiana on opening weekend. So it was Northern Iowa on opening weekend. Big expectations, and I think they'll show a lot different this Saturday.
Ames, Iowa chooses to believe that September doesn't exist.
Yeah, basically.
They do. They still
it almost did.
Yeah.
Hey, here's a quick stat, Paul, and then the calls. Baylor had 238 yards rushing. Again, I understand that's Eric Mateos and Jeff Grimes have to be thrilled with that. That's 29% in the one game, even with it being an FBS school in Texas State. That's a Sun Belt team. 29% of last year's overall rushing yards in that one game.
I believe it.
Yeah.
238, this was from Colt. They had 813 yards of total offense, rushing yards last year.
Well, in 9 games, which is less than 100 yards a game.
Yeah, and that was very clearly what they were last year. For those that didn't watch Baylor, and I don't blame you if you didn't, because I know we got a lot of national people watching, they could not run the football to save their life. I mean, it was an impossible task, truly. 4th and 1, forget about it. I mean, 9 times out of 10, you're not making that.
If somebody could, like Armageddon, if somebody come to you like Bruce Willis saying you need to run the ball 3rd and 2 and get a first down,
no
and
way.
the meteor will explode.
No way.
Like, no, the meteor's coming. Make your peace with God.
I mean, get ready.
One of the reasons why we're on YouTube the way we are and how many of you have found us and subscribed to us. Armstrong, do you have the tweet that I sent you about the University of Houston? Because this is a big deal, especially with what came down at the end of last week. This is from the University of Houston. Basically, in layman's terms, although it's easy to read, they are giving the chancellor the power to negotiate and execute conference affiliation. And that, and so here we go with that. And so that's from today. That's from, oh my God, I just went. Mark Berman on his Twitter feed from earlier today.
Do you think that was one of the things like, okay, you're in charge, you can make this decision, don't screw it up?
Yeah, well, Ross Dellinger had reported on Friday, and we were out on Friday at the game and had no internet, basically. So didn't see a whole lot of stuff on Friday afternoon, but he had reported some things, and then Pete Thamel from Yahoo had basically corroborated it. And, the projection from Pete Thamel says Big 12 presidents held a meeting yesterday. No votes took place. It was more of an informational meeting to go over the 4 candidates to join the league, and the projection is them coming in 2023.
Yeah,
and
July 1st of 2023 is what I'm being told.
Yeah, so that would mean if everything stays the way it is, and we know on Oklahoma and Texas that's just could happen anytime they buy out the Big 12 spot or whatever. But that means that if everything were to stay the way that it is, but those teams come in 2 Big 12 seasons at 10, 2 at 14, and then Oklahoma and Texas would leave after 24.
If they get to 12, including the 4 new teams, the estimate will be their TV revenue would be around $25 million. Now, don't let that fool you. That's not what they're making now. That does not include any third-tier rights, and that money can be double-digit money as well.
What are they making right now, like 35, 40?
Yeah. Counting the third tier, which is a little bit underestimated how much they make from the third tier, and we can clear this with Mac tomorrow, Mac Rhodes. It's about 10 or 15 million on top of that. So
go ahead.
On top of the TV revenue, then you have the third tier rights, which sometimes gets lost in the shuffle. So probably 35 to 40 max in that neighborhood. So this still could be 25 million, and then whatever they can get for the third tier rights, which remains to be seen.
I mean, 10 million loss would hurt, but at the same time, it beats making $8 million a year, which is what your other option was if you just sat on your hands and didn't expand. But I did want to make mention that Pete Thamel also made note of something you brought up on Friday. That we talked about at length on Friday, and he made mention at the very end of his note that the league could consider another round of expansion prior to their new television deal.
And guess what? Guess who's second? Who's next in line? If you went 2 more teams, Boise State and Memphis.
Yeah. And I mean, that gives you a conference that expands a lot of area.
That's coming from kind of just digging around and people who appreciate, I guess, what we do, letting me know some things, and I double-checked on that as well. But that's kind of where the pecking order is. Paul?
All right, we'll take 2 calls and break and then wrap up the other calls. All right, let's go to Owen in Virginia on the U.S. caller line. Owen, thanks for your call.
Thank y'all for letting me on. This opening week was really good for the Big 12. They went 9-1. Unfortunately for all of us West Virginia fans, it's been of a downer week for us with that loss against Maryland. But, I just wanted to know, from y'all's perspective, how does this look for the Big 12? You go 9-1, almost undefeated in your opening week with, you're bringing in 4 new teams from, you're expanding 4 new teams possibly and sending out possible invitations this week. Does that look good for you on a national stage that, hey, we won just about every game we played this week?
Well, a lot of it is who you played. But I thought Texas's win against Louisiana was a nice win. I do. Iowa State beating Iowa would help.
Yeah.
They were 9-1 if you want to include the new 4 teams. They're 12-2. Because Houston blew the lead, 21-7 lead to Texas Tech, but you're playing each other, so someone has to win and lose.
I'd rather
that
be
game.
them this week than the ACC.
Yeah, I know.
The ACC
you're right.
had a bad week.
They had a bad week, but that's something to take into consideration. Owen, thanks for the call.
Yeah, I don't know that people will really celebrate that or mention that too much right off the top, other than like a passing note. But you stack weeks on weeks, and you have a couple of teams like an Iowa State and Oklahoma, or even a Texas that emerges, and you have some it's all about having teams in the mix. The more teams that you can have in the mix, the more teams with winning records, the farther the season goes along, the more attention you're going to get. And so it was a nice start, really nice start. Even West Virginia's loss. I mean, I've got serious concerns about Jarrett Dagey. I just don't think that he's going to do much for them. I mean, I think we've kind of seen what we've seen. And outside of that, I mean, still have a defense that is pretty good. I think West Virginia will be fine. And that was a tough first opponent. I mean, on the road at Maryland, they got good little offense. So I know it was a tough loss, but I think the Mountaineers will be fine. And yeah, Big 12 just keep stacking those wins week after week, and you'll start to get a little bit of play from the national media.
I'll get to some of the text. We'll go back to the
Texas wins this weekend. We'll start to hear a whole lot about Texas. I don't know about the rest of the Big 12, but we'll start hearing a whole lot about Texas.
Yeah, and I'm playing at Arkansas, and that's an old rivalry. They've played each other since the split of the SEC and the old Southwest Conference, and so that'll be interesting to watch that game in Fayetteville. Paul?
All right, Stephen from Virginia. Let's get the DMV. We'll clear those two calls out right back to back. You're on the BetUS caller line.
Hey, Paul, I think you got me, Stephen from Virginia, and I just want to say one thing about the broadcast, and the first thing is that ESPN getting exclusive rights to show that deal with the Big 12 now, and charging us extra and killing our conference, and then allowing the Texas State underclassmen to do the broadcast, and then take the blame for the terrible quality is not really part of the deal. I would have much rather watched that on Baylor Vision or on Fox Sports Southwest. And then the other thing is I got huge Rice 2019 vibes from that game the other night. The longer I thought about it, because they probably should have won it by more. They made a whole lot of mistakes, and if a couple different calls go their way, we're talking more about 34 or 41 to 17 or to 13. And what ended up being impressive is last year they could not run the football, and they had a terrible offensive line. And they didn't have an insurge of talent that would make you think that all of a sudden they got way better players. These players were coached much better. They came out and they executed on a team that was not as good as them. And that gives me a whole lot more optimism than before, especially when I didn't really have a lot of good feelings about teams like Oklahoma State and West Virginia. Definitely maybe a better year than I even thought after the game the other night. Love to hear what y'all think. Later, guys.
Stephen, thank you. You guys wrapped that up with him.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that Rice game. I went and looked back at that box score. That was Baylor didn't score in the entire second half. They were 21-6 and won 21-13. But yeah, I mean, I think that they're going to be fine in the long run. Some people were like, complaining about this or that, and I just looked at it as, you could have won by a lot more, and you should have won by a lot more. You learn from that, and you move on. The only thing that kept that from being like a 40-point win was stupid time penalties and a couple of mistakes, and that was it. But I thought the offense looked way better than it did last year at any point. I don't know about y'all, but I thought at least they looked like they had an idea of what they were doing. They knew what they were. There wasn't like a mass confusion. It was an early season game, and I thought they looked improved from last year.
I thought what made me realize how bad it was before is there was a false start late in the game, and it was that they weren't completely in control, but a tight end moved early, and that used to be about every drive.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that had, and I tell you what, Vic Valoria, strength and conditioning, they seemed like they didn't get worn down, horrible heat, whatever you want to say. It looked like they kind of were in control of their bodies when it comes to the strength and conditioning. Again, against a team that they should lean on and be able to beat up the way they did.
I think it's also impressive that they have a quarterback who can run like Gary Bohannon can, and they called, I think, one design quarterback run. Yeah, I mean, a lot of
bootlegs, a lot of that getting him outside the pocket.
But it wasn't. There wasn't a whole lot of like, all right, quarterback draw. It's the best thing we got. No, it was mostly Abram Smith and Treston Ebner,
which with their best fourth and short play was Charlie Brewer on a keeper. Previously.
No, yeah, it used to be.
That was their fourth down play.
Hey, one quick note. I got the top 25. We'll match that up a little bit. We go back to your calls, back to the text, back to your chat. We had Tanner Mordecai on the show last week. SMU starting quarterback threw 7 touchdowns in their win against Abilene Christian. He was named to like 9 different national awards as the player of the week, including the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award. He won that. That was announced today. Congratulations to the young man. He was good. Finally had an opportunity. He was behind Jalen Hurts and Spencer Rattler and others before, and Kyler Murray. And so good for him for being able to kind of just get out there and explode.
Look, the door is open every college but the University of Florida if you would like your quarterback to be on our show.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, he comes on, he wins the award, you win big. When we come back, don't give up on us. We're not done. We got a lot of guests. We're going to check in today with Oregon. We're going to check in today with Iowa. And we're, of course, going to even nibble a little bit on the NFL and the Cowboys. And that opens up Thursday night Cowboys in Tampa Bay. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak, Jack McKenzie, Armstrong Sims, Hayden Bumpus, Sycamore 365 Radio.
Richard Carr Motors, they had their Labor Day sale pricing going on all this past month, celebrating Labor Day, which was yesterday. Richard Carr Motors was closed yesterday, but they're back and open and ready for business. And although Labor Day has come and gone, the savings continue all month long. Richard Carr is loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks. All of them go through a 172-point inspection before being made available for purchase or put out on the lot. With dozens of lenders, Richard Carr aims to say yes when others say no, and 100% credit approval is always their goal. And on the lot, you'll find the luxury of Cadillacs, the ultimate American luxury vehicle. Cadillacs with sophisticated looks, powerful and exhilarating drive at Richard Carr Cadillac. You can find the right caddy for you with the smooth and powerful CT4 sedan starting at only $33,395, or perhaps you like the XT4, the XT5, or the XT6 lineup of SUVs in the style and size to fit your lifestyle. And if they don't have the model of car or truck that you're looking for on their lot right now, they will put you in line for first priority service. Many cars and trucks that are coming their way, so get your name on that priority list to get the perfect vehicle for yourself as soon as they arrive. And here in the Waco, Central Texas area, Richard Carr is your local hometown dealerships. Give them a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes on new cars and trucks, and superior service after the sale. You can come by and take a test drive and see the yellow tag Labor Day savings all month at Richard Carr. They are owned, operated, and run by loyal and proud Baylor Bears, Richard Carr Motors.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long business meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness was built to help give you a chance to enjoy an elite tennis facility, but also to remain fit and reshape your body. And ahead of the curve with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman and courts available. Like your body, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness has gone through its own physical changes. Large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available with their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Beautiful sound of members working out, running, lifting, stretching, group exercise classes throughout each day. Personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. New look bar and lounge area with beer and wine with large flat screens. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and both include showers, sauna, and whirlpool, and a world-class tennis courts facility and youth academy led by Pro Britt Cole. Fitness and tennis merchandise and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. It's time to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sycamore 365 Radio. Call us on the BetUS hotline, 254-339-1122.
All right, one of the notes I mentioned that Montana beating Washington about an FCS beating an FBS team, ranked teams, and I said ranked. And there's a lot of other, for example, there's a bunch of them, FBS teams that have lost to FCS teams along the way. But as far as ranked teams, it's like 5 or 6 in the last several years. In fact, here's that note. Beating AP-ranked FBS teams, and probably could say coaches poll as well, since they split back in 1978. It's one thing to beat a team, but it's also another thing. In fact, the FBS has had many losses, but those are the ones to ranked teams, including that's the 6th, with the one coming up this past weekend with Washington and Montana.
I've been there watching FSU almost lose to Sanford or Jacksonville State a couple times over the years, and they've managed to accidentally fall into the wins there, and that's what you hope when you're especially a ranked FBS team playing an FCS. But those Montana, or not the Montana fans, the Washington fans on Saturday night, they're just sitting there going, okay, well, any minute now you can go ahead and score that touchdown that we need. Just go ahead and do it, and let's get this thing over with. And then the clock hits 0, and you're like, is it over? Really? There's not more time? We can't.
Who had the most impressive win?
Ooh.
UCLA?
There was a bunch, UCLA was pretty huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, UCLA was really
Georgia, 10-3, no offensive touchdowns. It's still against a team like Clemson. Clemson, you knew that if that game was close, 24-20, 27-24, 10-3, that even then, again, because of where they're ranked to start the year, the loser's not going to drop much. Now, Clemson surely can't then now, and if they don't clean up their offensive line, there will be other problems.
Yeah, Georgia, I think, has got to be right there. That defense is nasty and, low-scoring, physical game. So, yeah, the Dogs, getting a win like that right out of the gates, that's gigantic for them. It's not one of those where it's like David versus Goliath, though, so you were shocked by the outcome. But certainly, I think probably a lot of people figured Clemson would win that game. You got to go back to Virginia Tech beat North Carolina. That was a huge win for the Hokies to get that over Mac Brown and company. I'm trying to think of what were other major outcomes. Penn State's win over Wisconsin was a big one. A top 25 game right out of the gate.
On the road?
On the road, yes, on the road. And to get that win in the fourth quarter was huge for James Franklin and company. And we can go on and on. There's so many games, and obviously, UCLA, that was a big one over LSU. LSU ranked number 16 in the country, and UCLA just kicked their ass. They did.
I think Ed Orgeron is in the dangerous neighborhood of Gene Chizik territory.
Yeah.
Where, he had a once-in-a-lifetime team like Gene Chizik had, and then a couple years later, he has not been able to duplicate that. Your fans have a taste of it. They don't want to listen to you talk about rebuilding, and then you add an extra layer that Gene Chizik didn't have of there's a scandal going on at LSU right now, and heads are eventually going to roll for that, and Ed Orgeron is very much a part of that.
Well, he also, when Dave Aranda took the job at Baylor, was arrogant in how he handled talking about his new defensive coordinator, who was Bo Pelini. Now it's somebody else, and how that they would be much better. And that hasn't been the case. Now, Dave Aranda has his own business to deal with, but his defense that year, when you're scoring a ton of points, they did get better as the year went on.
I'll tell you what, there's a lot of LSU fans that miss Dave Aranda. I mean, going and just trying to seek out a quote or find something that maybe I had tweeted about him previously, and just I can't just type Dave Aranda. And you'd think it'd be a lot of Baylor fans, but really it's a lot of LSU fans who were missing that defense of his for sure this past weekend. So, yeah, really nice win for Chip Kelly and company, and they need to enjoy that one because those are not the wins that you just get all the time. A top 25 win over LSU to start the season.
All right, back to the calls.
All right, let's go to the 651. Your name got cut off on the screener, but 651, you're on Sycamore 365 Radio.
Is your area code 651 on your phone? If it is, we're probably talking to you.
Oh, there, that's my fault. Sorry, that's my bad.
Let's go.
All right, there we go. 651. Go ahead. All right, I'm going to have to drop this one. He can
Please call us back, 254-339-1122.
All right, Chris in Missouri. You're on Sycamore 365 Radio.
Hey, guys. How you guys doing? Hey, I don't know if you saw this, but over the weekend, the University of Pittsburgh got a $20 million donation. It was to change the name of their head coach. Their head coach is now to be referred as the Chris Bickle 97 head coach. I really hate this. What's next? We're going to start naming the players. We're going to start, changing the stadium names. I don't know. That just really puts a burr under my saddle. We're moving further away from what was great about college football to just a money grab. Anyway, just my take. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the call.
Yeah, thanks. I had not heard that, but I just pulled it up. Yeah, Pitt Panthers received a $20 million gift, largest donation in program history, paid by 97 alumnus Chris Bickle, and in turn, the head coaching position will now be permanently named the Chris Bickle 97 head football coach.
But if you want to send us $20 million,
I will be.
We'll change our names. We'll change the name of the show, the set, where our location, whatever.
I'm for purchase.
Yeah, that way. I'm available. Although, dude, if you've got it, flaunt it. If you're Chris Bickle and can make them call you the Chris Bickle head coach
for
the rest of your life, I mean, that
opens up such a can of worms because when you watched an old broadcast back in the day, you did not have like the Coors Light kickoff. You had the kickoff. And then people started attaching sponsors to the kickoff, to the first.
But if it's just a guy, look, I only know this because it's firsthand knowledge. It's right here. It's right across the river from us. But McLean Stadium, they had to beg Drayton McLean
put his name
on it because he's just, while he has more money than you can shake a stick at, he does not like to flaunt that thing. I mean,
Paul, we've got something for you.
I think if you donate $20 million, there's a lot that should come with that in return. But this, I think, is very silly. I think this is very silly, and I don't know what the motivation, like the thought was, what would be really cool is when I donate my money, if they name the head coaching position the Chris Bickle 97 head coach. Like, I don't know. I don't know the type of personality where that comes into play. I would donate $20 million and have my name on the side of a building or something. But I think that's very strange. I think it's kind of silly, and I don't know if it speaks to the changing of college football, but it might a little bit, and I'm not really in favor of that.
Paul, $1,000 to wear a Tebow jersey.
For how long?
Well, you better respond to him on the chat room. That's from Bama fan
$1,000 for a Tebow jersey. Can we do better than $1,000? Can we do better than $1,000?
Oh my gosh, I'll wear a Tebow jersey.
I mean, I'm just going to see. Yeah, I'll do it. I'd do it.
Top 5 teams in America: Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, Oklahoma, A&M, and Clemson are all boom, boom, boom right down the line, 1 through 6. Notre Dame and Cincinnati flip 7 and 8. In each poll, Florida 9, Iowa State 10. In the coaches poll, the AP poll, Iowa State 9, and Iowa 10, which sets up that game this weekend, Ames.
So 3 Big 12 teams in the top 10.
Yeah.
Yep, and Texas
Cincinnati.
15.
They
moved
moved up.
up.
Paying attention. Cincinnati, I was talking about.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah.
Teams that knocked out LSU, they got smoked by UCLA. Indiana, all those expectations.
Iowa
Washington, we mentioned that,
win.
and Louisiana.
Yeah.
Iowa beat the dog crap.
I thought about mentioning them too.
I mean, hammered them.
That was, like I said, I could have gone on for like 20 different results that were impressive or interesting. I mean, we could spend just all 3 hours on results, but yeah, Iowa's was certainly up near the top.
Oklahoma State 23 in the country as well.
All right, let's go to T-Rex and wrap up this segment before we go to JJ Joe. T-Rex, you're on Sycamore 365 Radio on the BetUS caller line. Thanks for your call.
Hey, guys, missed y'all yesterday, but, y'all work hard, so y'all needed a day off, So
thank you.
Appreciate y'all coming back on Tuesday, giving us something to talk about. Man, 1-0, that's all that matters. Screw the scoreboard, even though half the time it probably wasn't even working if you're watching from home. So
it wasn't.
One message for everybody that doesn't like ESPN Plus. If you don't want to watch it, then just go to the game. It's just about as cheap this week to go to the game for a ticket. I've seen $6 tickets on StubHub. $6.99 to get ESPN Plus? Just go to the game. It'd be a lot better if you want to cry about it. Anyways, Texas Southern, that's all that really matters at this point. But I do want to touch real quick. Didn't catch the very beginning of the show, so y'all already mentioned the basketball schedule. I just am really excited that we are doing that banner unveiling, national championship rings, the night before the OU game. Not necessarily because it's an OU game, but, it is going to be a big game, so hopefully we have a great turnout for that first home game for basketball. It's about time that fans show up to our basketball games, and I just can't wait to see that massive banner that's going to be just as big, if not bigger, than the 3 women's banners combined. Sycamore Bears, build a new downtown arena. I'm out.
Thank you, T-Rex. We're going to mention that off the top of the 4 o'clock hour. I have it here in front of me, but they do have a pretty nice schedule. They play Stanford at home. They play Villanova at home along with their conference games. On the road at Oregon, at Alabama. And, of course, they're in that Bahamas trip that has Arizona State, Auburn, UConn, Loyola Chicago with a new coach, Michigan State, Syracuse, and VCU. So those are the games that they have as far as the highlighted games for Baylor, the national champions, coming off the national title back in Indianapolis in April.
Yeah, that'll be cool to see them hang that banner. That'll be a really special moment for Scott Drew and all the people who have been involved. So, yeah, that'll be cool, and I would expect that to be a packed game. But he's right. Yeah, I mean, might as well if you watched from home last weekend, I think if you got an opportunity to be in person this weekend, you should definitely take advantage of it.
When we come back, he was at the game in San Marcos. He played the position of quarterback at Baylor. JJ Joe, Baylor radio analyst, will join us to kind of break down how much do you think that Jeff Grimes and Sean Bell allowed Gary Bohannon to do in that opening game against Texas State? What did he see that he liked, and maybe things that he obviously sees that need to be worked on? And that's next on Sycamore 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco, home of a 48-foot walk-in humidor with some of the great names in cigars. Macanudo, Cohiba, Padron, Arturo Fuente, Romeo and Julieta, Rocky Patel, La Fontana, and I could go on. On and on and on. It is packed. It's loaded with boxes of cigars, or you can sit there and pick and choose which ones you want. They have CBD available as well, including Vita Dreams, that allows you to maybe kind of just fall asleep a little bit quicker. It's not that you're drugging yourself by any means. CBD just allows you to maybe just relax just a little bit. And so you don't toss and turn for 15 to 30 minutes or 45 minutes. I can't remember what day it was last week, but for some reason, man, I just couldn't. I was wired, and I could not fall asleep. So CBD Vita Dreams from Don Humidor can help you out as well. They have ground coffee every day. Carolyn, Ashley, and Cheyenne, tell them Smokey sent you in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
You know what would make this moment better? pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfect pizza. Bob Mock has owned Marco's Pizza franchises since 2013 and has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in the Waco area, in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Order at marcos.com to make any moment better. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Life is back on, sports bettors, and BetUS has your NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, UFC, PGA, and yes, NFL betting lines up for their 27th year and live betting on all of it. Log into BetUS.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BETUS. BetUS for 125% bonuses with promo code SYCAMORE125. Customer service pros are ready to get your phone, social, and online sports betting kickoff started now. Play with the proven mainstay in the industry. BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. Use promo code SYCAM125.
Since its inception, Pickup Outfitters has remained politically neutral. We love trucks of every persuasion, not just red and blue ones. But people keep asking us where we stand, and for this one time, we're going to break our neutrality. We oppose any government intervention or legislation to end truck nudity. We believe in the American right to drive nude vehicles. We think it's disgusting. We fight it every place we can, and we want to end it, but we want to end it the right way, peaceably. Therefore, we call on Congress and President Biden to respect the rights of truck owners. Our founding fathers didn't own a truck, but if they did, I bet they would have put a bed cover and running boards on their truck. The right to keep and bear your truck the way you want is fundamental to the fabric of this nation, and we believe in that right. So we urge you to come and take it at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco. On the web at createacommotion.com.
Not only will you find an award-winning dealer at Allen Samuels, but you'll also find some great award-winning products. The 2021 Ram brand was ranked the #1 automotive brand on J.D. Power's initial quality study. The 2021 Dodge brand ranked #2 behind Ram, and the 2021 Jeep Gladiator named highest quality midsize truck. Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340 in Waco, where we deliver quality.
Come by, let's be friends.
This is Sycamore 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sycamore 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
We will get back to text, chat, calls as well. We're joined by former Baylor quarterback and also the Baylor radio color analyst. J.J. Joe was there. San Marcos. Baylor beats Texas State 29-20. And he joins us on Sycamore 365 Radio. J.J., how much do you feel like they let Gary Bohannon loose? Did they, in your opinion, hold back a ton of what we might still see from him?
Yeah, Smoak, thanks for having me on. I do think they did. I mean, the game plan, if you look at it, was really, really pretty simple. You got very little misdirection. Gary ran maybe 3 times really what I would on called runs. He ran the boot quite a bit. I really like that play with Gary. He seems to throw very well on the run. But I don't think Coach showed he probably showed 60% of what he probably has in store for, kind of what comes along in the schedule a little later.
How much of this also is, not overloading Gary in his first start when he's only been the starting quarterback for a week?
Yeah, and that's part of it as well. I mean, Coach, that you want to learn, a little bit. I mean, you've had scrimmages, you've had a competition during the spring, so you don't want to give him too much. But I think also, you're going to have a lot of stuff in that Gary probably could run, knows how to run, but during the game and you get into the game and you don't think you need it, and you don't, like you say, want to put too much on his plate, so you let him ease into it because the first 2 games, really, you probably should find a way to win. And then when Iowa State comes to town, you need Gary to be confident and, kind of the things you think are the staples. But then you want him to be prepared to take, be able to handle 80 to 90, 95% of the playbook.
So, JJ, the biggest topic all offseason in terms of where the most improvement was needed once you settled on a quarterback was the offensive line. They helped lead the 2 100-yard rushers with Abram Smith and Treston Ebner. They kept Gary Bohannon relatively clean, no sacks recorded. I know it's Texas State, but to me that's progress. What did you see from the O-line on Saturday?
You know, I really liked what I saw. Now, they should play well against Texas State. I mean, Texas State, you know, good, solid team, but there's a difference between a Power 5 and a team from the Southland Conference. But I like the coordination. You could tell that Coach Mateos and Coach Grimes, they're together. They know exactly what they want to do. From the beginning, I could tell exactly what kind of offense they want to run. You know, you see the wide gap, you see the blocking, you see the scheme fits with the play calls, you see the play calls fit. They make sense. You see what's coming next. I didn't have that feeling over the last 4 years. I mean, I just felt like, you know, we would play along until Charlie needed. We asked Charlie to make a play. So with all that said, I like the way they looked, but I want to continue to see them get better because last year we ran the ball for, I think, like 300 yards against Kansas early in the season, and then we regressed. So I just want to keep seeing them grow, but I do like what I see.
JJ, Gary's got a gun. There's no question he can throw it. He can throw darts, bullets, whatever you want to, BBs. But and that does mean the defense knows he can. Is that valuable, or do you need to hit one of those every once in a while?
To be honest with you, Smoak, you don't have to hit it, but you need to hit it.
Yeah.
I know I sound like I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth, but I'm going to tell you, if they hit one of those, that game's a 21-point game. If he hits one and he breaks the back, we had a couple of opportunities to break that team's back and run away from them. But it didn't happen. And a couple throws, he overthrew Taekwon. A couple of times they made a bad call on Josh. On Josh Fleeks. That was a terrible call, but we didn't have replay. But yeah, I mean, he can throw it. To outthrow Taekwon, that means you can float it, right? But I'll say this, and I said it in my write-up on, Sycamore 365 Smoak. It's different in the game. That guy's moving faster than he is in practice. I don't care what anybody says. Even when you're going competitive one-on-one, when you get in the game, that guy has adrenaline, and he's moving, and to gauge it, it just takes a little time. I anticipate we'll see it come together.
JJ, they made a lot of little mistakes, penalties. I mean, they add up, but, penalties and things like that. How much do you think that is this team has not played together too much?
Yeah, knew everything. I mean, there's a couple of them. I mean, that roughing the punter penalty, it was kind of the kid, Matt slid. You kind of see it. He kind of slid late and slid into the plant leg. But that should have been punt safe call. I mean, if you have a punt safe call on, team's punting from your side of the field, there's no reason to go block it unless you need the block to win the game. So it should have been punt safe. If it's punt safe, he's not even rushing. But anyway, that happened. That gave him life. And then a couple other times we got down there, we just didn't bang it home. So, you're going to have that in the first game. You're going to have that with basically a new offensive coaching staff. But defensively, we did a few things that, you kind of want to say, hey, come on now. You guys are too good for that. But, that'll get cleaned up. First game of the year, and you anticipate, the next couple games, it'll be much cleaner.
So with Texas Southern on Saturday, I mean, I think the expectation for everybody is that this is a game that Baylor should win relatively easily, the home opener. But for you to see the progress that isn't just the first week early season bugaboos, what would you need to see on Saturday to say, oh yeah, they've taken another step this week?
Well, after that, I think it's Kansas. But I mean, Texas Southern, you just want to see a clean game. If the subs aren't in by the second drive, third drive, and third quarter, you haven't done your job. And that's not a knock against Texas Southern. Texas Southern, they compete well, and most of the time, if they play their best and the Big 12 team plays its best, Southern will probably lose by 3 touchdowns, maybe 4. So they'll come in, they're going to compete. It's going to be hard early, but just like we saw last week, Texas State was ready to give up. They were ready to say, Baylor, you're supposed to beat us. We just didn't take it. So I'm anticipating on Saturday that Baylor should be a lot more crisp. The offense should score when it should score. And this game, we should see the backup quarterback. We should see Gary turn it over and get a look at, Zeno and Chapin. We should. So that's what I'm looking to see.
How much, and JJ, to finish it with this, if it's okay, is that how much do you like the fact that it was a hot day? Obviously, everyone's playing in the heat. And it looked as if you didn't see guys gassed. I know that the time of possession, whatever number of plays, but and again, they're playing against an inferior opponent, but it did look like a team that was in pretty good shape.
No, it really did. I mean, it was hot. As you guys know, Ricky always reminds me of how good I have it in the booth. But, yeah, it was hot, and it was good to see. Now, coaches did a great job of rotating guys, played a lot of guys, and that's important. But you didn't see it. You didn't see guys bending all over, even offensively, because we had the ball a lot. You saw the guys, they looked fit, they looked in shape, they looked real well conditioned. So, I mean, you want to see that because, for the next probably 3 or 4 weeks, it's going to be hot, especially wherever we play. Even in Kansas, it'll be hot. So it's good to see, and I'm looking for more, but that was a great start.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. JJ Joe, appreciate it anytime we get your knowledge. Baylor color analyst for Baylor Radio, former Baylor quarterback. Always great to have him on following the game to kind of give us a little perspective from the eyeballs of someone who played at that level. When we come back, David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com. Normally on Tuesdays at 5, but he had to be up a little bit earlier today because of an appointment. Later on, we check in with the University of Iowa as they play, of course, Iowa State, and we'll check in on Oregon as they have their game with Ohio State. And this is Sycamore 365 Radio. Pickup Outfitters, they can help load up your car, truck, or minivan, SUV with bumpers and grill guards and much more. Jay Arrett and the folks at Pickup Outfitters at 220 Lake Air Drive. You can go in there and look around for all the accessories for your truck if you don't already have it, or maybe it's something that you want to change, a different look. You can do that as well with Pickup Outfitters at 220 Lake Air Drive. It's createacommotion.com. And the reason that is the name of the website is because Jay Arrett, whenever he does commercials, he will always have some sort of kind of a little smart ass in him, but always the story. Great accessories, great service, and lifetime installation warranty. Pickup Outfitters, createacommotion.com.
It's time for some high school football. Berg Colgan Ford proudly celebrates the Panthers, Cadets, Lions, and all the Central Texas football teams as they march their way through the season and down the field. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgan Ford. We'd love to show you our Broncos, Raptors, and Mustangs. These vehicles are winners with their sporty options and designs. Nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to Sycamore 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of DallasCowboys.com.
Here is Pollard all the way in for 6.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Normally, David at 5, today 4. Cowboys open Thursday against Tampa Bay. Open up the NFL season. David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com. David, thanks for your time, making it work for us. So, Connor McGovern starts at right guard. Is that correct with this Zach Martin news?
I think it's like 99% correct. The Cowboys are trying to leave a little bit of wiggle room for Zach Martin. You know, if he can get enough negative tests and get to Tampa on time, I guess that's theoretically possible, but I think it's a very, very, very slim chance. So, yes, I do think it'll be Connor McGovern.
What are their vaccination numbers like post cut-down day?
I think I wasn't there because opening a new attraction, but Stephen Jones told reporters today that they have 3 guys left on the team that aren't, and I don't know if that's, I think that's practice squad and active roster, so 3 out of 68, I believe. So not perfect, but pretty good.
All right, so what a hell of an opener, right? You've got the star with all of that, plus you have the maybe greatest player ever in Tom Brady and all the Super Bowl rings, defending champions, loaded up with everybody back. What are your expectations of this team early on in this game Thursday?
That's a good question. I mean, it's hard to, let's just be very honest. Like, it's hard to look at this matchup, even with Zach Martin in the game, and, like, think of a reason on paper for why the Cowboys should win. Like, it's the Super Bowl champs. They return all 22 starters. They've got Brady. They've got Gronk. They got all this firepower. They got a great defense. And the home team like never loses these Thursday night games. Since they started doing them in 2004, I think the home team's only ever lost 3. So that's, almost 20 years. It's hard to win these types of games against teams, good teams that are good enough to have won a Super Bowl. So, it's hard to say I expect them to win, but I think my expectation is for them to come out, play a lot cleaner than they did last year, improve on defense, play more attacking defense, play as if they know how to play defense at an NFL level, which was not the case a lot of times last year, and just be competitive. I mean, it's a 17-game season. You're not going to win them all. I'm not going to judge them too hard if they lose this game, but at the very least, it would be nice if they look like they belong on the same field, because that kind of gives you a barometer of, okay, we might not win, but if we can go toe-to-toe with the defending champs, we might have a chance to be pretty good.
How much concern should fans have that the first-team offense hasn't had any game action together in a long, long time?
It's ironic because I am the guy that every year I say, sit the starters in the preseason. It ain't worth it. And I still believe that. But this is a hell of this is a hell of a challenge for anybody, let alone an offense that hasn't had a lot of time together. If they were going against Carolina, I'd be like, yeah, who cares? They'll get it together. But you're going against the team, again, everybody's back, all that continuity. I don't follow the Bucs as closely as I follow the Cowboys, but they haven't seemed to have any crazy injury issues. Tom Brady looked really sharp in his preseason work. So I do think they're at a bit of a disadvantage. Again, is that going to sink their season? I don't think so, but it might take them a week or 2 weeks to get things clicking, whereas I expect the Bucs to be ready to go from snap one. So I do think it is a little bit of a disadvantage in this specific matchup.
David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com with us on Sycamore 365 Radio. With what Tampa Bay does with Brady, his receivers, they obviously run the ball well enough. Dallas with their secondary, give me who's going to start? Who do you think? And I know they can be 5 and 6 in there at one point, but who do you feel like they'll try to at least start with in the secondary?
I think, in your nickel package, that's the personnel you use the most in the modern NFL. I think you'll see Anthony Brown and Trayvon Diggs outside at corner. I think you'll see Jordan Lewis in the slot, DeMonte Casey as your free safety, and Donovan Wilson as your strong.
Paul?
How much do we expect to see Malik Hooker at all?
Really, really great question. I wish I had a definitive answer for you. It's interesting because I think Casey and Hooker are very similar players. They're free safeties. You probably don't want them down in the box banging against those bigger guys. And they're not going to play a lot of special teams. So I am interested to see how they deploy that. I do think Dan Quinn has the potential to use a lot of safeties in the way he wants to play defense. I think Jaron Kearse is a name that I think people should know who's not like a star. I think he's got a chance to be like a dime safety who can play against tight ends. I'm not saying he's going to erase Rob Gronkowski. I don't think that's a hell of a lot easier said than done, but he's a big, long guy who I think can work well against tight ends. So I say all of that to say I'm not going to be surprised if Dan Quinn's got a plan for how he could use 3 or even 4 safeties in this game. So, he's not going to share that game plan with me before kickoff, but I wouldn't be surprised if all those guys find a way to have a role.
Well, what he needs to do is just go have them play like Atlanta did in the first half against New England in the Super Bowl, and then say, okay, wait a minute, let's do it again. Let's not let 28-3 whatever happen. All right, David, how difficult is it watching what was a once-in-a-lifetime college football team become right now who LSU has become?
It sucks. That's the simple answer. It sucks a lot. But I want to be clear, the once-in-a-lifetime college football team has nothing to do with this. Like, nothing can taint the legacy of that amazing team. And clearly, I'm going to need to cling tightly to my memories of 2019 to help me get through some bad football because, they seem to have lost it real quick. And I thought UCLA was a pretty good team going into that game. I wasn't surprised at all that they lost, but they got their butts kicked. I mean, they got blown off the line. SEC fans love to brag about how they have bigger, badder athletes at every spot on the field. Well, that's what UCLA looked like against LSU on Saturday, and that's what worries me is no offense to the Pac-12, but if UCLA can blow you off the ball like that, you're going to have a hell of a time against the Alabamas, the Auburns, Floridas of the world if you can't even hold your own against UCLA. So, yeah, it might be a little bit of a long season.
Look, you can just join our support group, David. It's fine.
Oh, no, I don't even want to hear it, Paul. Y'all went toe-to-toe with Notre Dame. Y'all played a great game. Y'all took them to overtime. I mean, that's what I'm saying is, like, if LSU loses a nail-biter to UCLA on the road – that whatever, they weren't supposed to be a playoff contender this year, but they just got dominated. There's a difference.
Yeah, they did. They got physically beat up, and UCLA is usually not one that does that. They usually are a little bit soft, despite how they might look, with a bunch of great athletes running all over the place. All right, anything else, Paul?
Nope.
David, thank you, man. Appreciate you jumping on early with us today, and we'll talk to you next Tuesday.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com. By the Zach Martin, obviously the COVID thing. He's got a short timeline here before they leave Wednesday, play Thursday. And, let's say that all of a sudden, Thursday morning, he gets this second test that's negative. You don't think Jerry's little jet might find a way to get him down to Tampa about as fast as possible?
Yeah, last episode of Hard Knocks tonight as well. I haven't been watching it much at all, but for those who have, the last episode tonight.
It's not like the Hard Knocks that they did that Smokey might have been on with Tank Johnson and Pac-Man Jones and Terrell Owens. That was a very interesting Hard Knocks. That one right there. But this one, and not that it's not interesting, they're all Hard Knocks are interesting in their own right, but this one, the Cowboys, and you're talking about in Hard Knocks, you want to see the stories of the guys who may not make the roster, and that Azur Kamara made the roster, and that was a good story. But at the end of it, you want to see different intrigue. The Cowboys surprisingly have very little levels of intrigue now.
Everything's kind of settled.
It's kind of settled.
Yeah.
So their intrigue is, as long as these guys are healthy, this is who's going to play. So that's what training camp's about. The real intrigue for the Cowboys comes when they mess up when the games count. That's the true intrigue with the Cowboys. Training camp, not so much. The real stuff is in the season when they.
I have no idea
when they lose to the Bucs, or they'll beat the Bucs and then lose to the Giants by 21.
Okay, how has it gone as far as the interest? I haven't seen a lot. Okay, all right, and that's probably disappointing for HBO, right? Because
I'm sure they'll still get okay numbers. It's the Cowboys.
Cowboys.
I mean, you got to think about it. You're not looking at it from a Cowboys fan perspective. Cowboys fan, they're going to watch the Cowboys on Hard Knocks, whatever it is, because they're not looking necessarily for drama. They're looking for just stuff, info behind the scenes and what guys are like off the field and that kind of thing. But I'll be curious to see what the ratings eventually turn out to be.
I know after last week, Jerry Jones really loves Whataburger. That's what they taught, the end of the thing.
Who doesn't, right?
Yeah, he was talking about he loves Whataburger.
By the way, that Brigham Young went against Arizona. They play Utah this week. Will be interesting. Remember the Pac-12 commissioner was talking about all the tickets that were sold. If you saw any pictures of that stadium, Brigham Young had themselves a big chunk of it from the 385. Don't forget to touch on Arizona's home game. Now, when we come back.
Shout out to fellow Big 12 member BYU.
Yeah, way to go, Brigham Young, UC up in Cincinnati.
That for the next few months.
In Houston, almost, we're going to get a win or a loss out of that in the conference because of Houston and Texas Tech, which was an entertaining game. All right, when we come back, Sundays, what networks might be a part of the future Big 12? What are we talking about when it comes to possible payouts? What about exit fees? All of that and maybe more. We'll come back with that, try to summarize that if we can with you on the Big 12 and realignment, expansion, and all of that above. This is Sycamore 365 Radio.
If you're looking for a new home or trying to sell the one you're in, or look, if you're watching us and think, man, I sure would like to move to Waco, you need to give my friend Lance Donaldson a call, 254-214-3713. And the Donaldson family team, brokered by eXp Realty. Lance is a local realtor with a unique perspective, and he is going to help you navigate that world of, look, you're going to get a high value for selling your house right now because it's seller's market. Well, how do you roll that into your new house? All those things you need a realtor for. You don't want to do a for sale by owner. You don't want to do that. And you don't want to buy from a for sale by owner either. You want to navigate all of those easily, and Lance can help you do that. So give him a call, 254-214-3713, or online at lancedonaldson.exprealty.com.
Escape the mundane with the responsive power and exhilarating agility of a new Cadillac from Richard Carr Cadillac. Smile behind the wheel again in the supercharged sophistication of a CT4 or CT5 sedan, or the sporty and spacious XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs. Starting at only $33,395, the Cadillac of your dreams is waiting now at an affordable price at Richard Carr. Test drive from the expansive selection at Richard Carr Cadillac, or let us bring a test drive to you. Go to richardcarcadillac.com to schedule a test drive today.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs, too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sycamore sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Welcome back to Sycamore 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
All right, this 4 o'clock hour. Kennington Smith III, he covers Iowa Hawkeyes football for the Des Moines Register, will join us at the bottom of the hour. Craig's off the radar. Let me kind of give you a little bit of what's going on in the background when it comes to the Big 12. And, there's times because we do a show, and yes, because this has gone very national as well, I always try to track down pretty much everything that's sent my way, try to double check, due diligence, whatever. This is not me reporting facts. This is me trying to give you a little background on some of the things that have come up the last couple of months, or at least the last couple of weeks when it comes to the Big 12 and the 4 teams, Brigham Young, Houston, UCF, and Cincinnati. One of the issues that everyone has brought up is the Sunday scheduling conflict. Being told that the commissioner, Bob Bowlesby, has told Brigham Young that will not be a problem. They will work around that. Also, this is all sports. It's not just sports like basketball and football. It's everything top to bottom. The timeline that the teams would love to join, and somebody brought this up earlier, is July 1st of 2023. Now, I don't know what that means when it comes to what Texas and Oklahoma do, who right now are saying all the right things after the initial wow by saying that they expect to come run through 24 and 25. I think most of us realize that most likely it may never get to that point, and if it does, that's fantastic for them. But I have a feeling that probably isn't the case. One of the other notes that's interesting to me is the operating on principle. All votes need to be unanimous. Now, I'm being told that does not include Texas and Oklahoma. There's conflicting reports there. We're expecting to get Mack Rhodes, a Baylor Director of Athletics, tomorrow. First time in a long time. And of course, that plus the grant of rights, if you add, how does it affect Texas, Oklahoma, et cetera, remains to be seen. How about this? If, in fact, you go with 12 members, including the new 4, but not including what is Texas and OU, the network money will be somewhere below $25 million. Now, again, that's a drop, but that does not include the money from the Big 12 championship game in football, NCAA, what's the word for basketball? What do you call those, Paul? You get I had the word right. Credits for what you do with the NCAA tournament when it comes to the Big 12. It does not include bowl money that will be split up as well among some of the other. Each school needs to come up with their own type of way to create third-tier rights as well. So there's $25 million, a little bit less, based on 12 members. But then again, there are other monies involved that adds to that total. Now, you hear about how Texas, or maybe Texas and Oklahoma, were talking to ESPN or the Big 12 and that they did not want to extend. I'll be interested to see what happens here. I'm not so sure that's true. I'm not so sure ESPN didn't have the Big 12 extended for 12 years and it was just rejected. It would not have been $28 million to $35 million to $40 million or whatever, but I'm not so sure the ESPN was not ready to go in with the Big 12 the way it is now with the 10 teams, including Texas and Oklahoma, and what might have chased them off was the fact that ESPN was just not going to have too much of an increment each year. That it would be very slow and methodical. It would not be chunks of money to catch up with the Big Ten and or the SEC. Now, I don't know. We keep hearing about ESPN. Not sure what CBS Sports might have to do with all this, or maybe a combination of CBS and Fox.
Well, I mean, CBS has lost their the big main thing they had, which was the SEC.
But they're not going to hang their hat on the Big 12.
No, but they
might still want to do some college football outside of what else they're doing.
Yeah, and Fox does not have a major streaming presence. They have one. I mean, they have the Fox Sports app, but they're not. I mean, how often do you hear that really pushed? But CBS is a major streaming presence with Paramount Plus. So maybe that company wants to get involved in that. I wonder if I'm the Big 12. I'm taking, obviously, and everybody would, but all callers on this point.
If in fact you go beyond, and we mentioned this earlier, if you go beyond the 4 teams being added, if you went 5 and 6 with either direction, it would be Boise State and most likely Memphis. There are still many teams, and some of them we've discussed not ad nauseum because that sounds negative, but we've discussed them many, many times, who might be of interest. And guess who might have jumped into the fray as at least someone because of maybe one game with Oklahoma? Tulane?
New Orleans, Louisiana. They got a lot of talent down in Louisiana. LSU's feasted off of it for years. Texas and A&M both have gone down there and picked up prospects. I mean, shoot, everybody in the country at some point or another probably gone down to Louisiana to get a player. They are, what is it? What's the phrase? Like per capita? I guess they
Louisiana,
are. They're the most loaded, and I think Georgia's right there as well. I see that from the New Orleans side of things. I'm not sure if, for me personally, but I'm not working with all the information these guys are working with, obviously. Right. I'm going off of like what I think would be cool. They're going off of what makes the most sense, but that is interesting. Tulane's not somebody I would probably have in my next 2 or 3 for certain. I don't even know if they'd be in my next 4. But, they can't be too far outside of that. There's only so many teams, that are realistic, that are big enough that could possibly do it. But that would be interesting. I don't know.
Now, with the teams that are a part of the AAC, because there's a 27-month, I think it is, exit timeline, and there's fees, that whatever those fees are, those teams, this is something that could be of interest here. The Big 12 wants this to happen, obviously, and so do these 4 teams. But let's look at the 3 AAC teams. Big 12 says, we're going to pay your exit fees. This is a scenario. This is not me reporting facts, but this is something that is very much in play. We're going to pay your exit fees and be done with it. And we'll then take that out of the first 3 years of you're a part of the Big 12. Like it could be 50% and then 25%, or any kind of order that way. So that's one of the things about exit fees for schools that don't have a chunk of money, just no matter who your boosters and donors are. So that could be something the Big 12 does as well.
And their exit fee is $10 million, correct?
I don't know what the exact figure is.
I think it's something. I think it's been.
I want to say the last time when UConn tried to leave, it was about 17. I know they negotiated that down, but I'm not sure what it would be right off the top of my head for Houston right now.
I think it's $10 million if you give the proper. I tell you, it's like if it was 17 for UConn, who wanted to go tomorrow. But I think if it's 10 if you have some time.
One of the other things that could be in play here is that the AAC's grant of rights is with who? ESPN? Mm-hmm. And so ESPN, there's still that whatever we don't know, maybe we think we do, Bowlesby, ESPN, all of that, the cease and desist. Perhaps That's also worked into this, and that perhaps instead of a 27-month exit, perhaps it can only be 20. Again, those are just possibilities. A lot of this stuff, this is like molding clay into a pot that could be part of the background of the Big 12 and the teams that they're looking at.
Yeah, I'm trying to find exactly, but I believe I saw a good source that said, what was that, the 27 months notice and then a $10 million buyout fee. You could join by 2023 if you started to execute that right now, which would line up with, previous reports of those teams joining in 2 seasons. You'd have 1 to 2 seasons, actually, of a 12-team league. Or no, you'd have a 14-team league with Texas and Oklahoma for like 1 or 2 runs, and then they would go off, and then you'd go back to your 12-team, and then possibly, that's when you revisit the expansion of adding a Tulane or a SMU or a whoever else is in the mix at that point. So that would line up and make some sense.
Yeah, so that's something. Just somebody just on the chat room, Jay Bird. No, it's not Jay Bird. Who was it? Let's see here. I'm trying to respond. Sooner JJ had a chat where he asked me, the Big 12 wants to get the expanded teams ASAP, but want to keep Oklahoma and Texas to leave. Does that not sound hypocritical? I don't know. I don't know whoever has said that they want Texas and Oklahoma to leave. Financially, they would benefit from that if Texas and Oklahoma left early because of some sort of penalties or payout. But I haven't reported that. I never said that. I would think everybody involved would like to get to that point sooner rather than later.
Well, I mean, just reading word for word, I'm sure he meant something different, but it doesn't really make – the Big 12 wants to get the expanded teams ASAP, but want to keep OU Texas to leave. That does – like,
well,
I'm not sure.
I
think they want to keep them until they get their freaking money.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to leave, guess what? Oklahoma and Texas can leave. Pay the $80 million and see you down the road. I mean, I think that's what they're holding on to. It's not of like, let's hold Oklahoma and Texas hostage. It's they're under contract for 4 more seasons. They are the cash cows. We're not going to boot them out and lose money. That'd be stupid. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to hold them until the contract runs out or Texas and Oklahoma pay the money. But in the meantime, they've got to establish their future. They can't turn around and now be on, like, if they had let Texas and Oklahoma dictate this thing and waited for them to make a decision before expanding, it would have totally bottomed out the conference because others would have swooped in ahead of them. So you can't wait 4 years to do it. This is really your only choices. Y'all play out your contract or pay money, and everybody else is going to start coming into the fold, and there may be some cross sections, but that only lasts about a season or so. And I mean, it makes sense to me. If OU and Texas don't want to do that, then there is that option of writing a big fat check.
Sooner, JJ, did you forget me already? Gotcha. They want the money. No question.
That's absolutely JJ.
But
that's
no
what they
one,
want.
the Big 12 could never go on record as saying that, hey, we want them out. They have to play the game just like Texas and Oklahoma are playing that legal game by saying that they intend to leave after 24-25.
Yeah, I got you now, JJ.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
Thanks for the chat, JJ. Appreciate that. We're now joined by Kennington Smith III. Des Moines Register covers Iowa. Perhaps the best game has got game day, number 9 and number 10, depending on what poll you look at. 2 rivals. Kennington Smith III joins us on Sycamore 365 Radio. How about this, Kennington? They both get inside the top 10. Game day and Ames. This is already a rivalry. Iowa looked fantastic the opening week. Your thoughts about the week itself with just the emotions and atmosphere?
This is a crazy week. And just to preface this is my first year covering the Hawkeyes. So today I learned that this is the first ever matchup between both schools where they're both ranked, and now they just happen to be in the top 10. So this is undoubtedly the biggest game in the rivalry's history, and there's just so much at stake. On Iowa State side, you have, the kind of, little brother in the rivalry who hasn't had as much success as Iowa, and they have an opportunity on a national stage to step into the forefront and truly establish themselves as a new college power and a true playoff contender. Then on Iowa side, you have, you're at number 10 and you have an opportunity to start off the year with wins over 2 ranked opponents. And at that point, you're immediately putting yourself into the college football playoff discussion when you look at how the rest of their schedule shakes out. So there's just so much on the line. We had player availability today, and, you can just kind of, feel the energy and the excitement from the players and the coaches, especially because they weren't able to play this game last year due to COVID.
Where did that offense come from Iowa this week? That's not – look, Kirk Ferentz is fine. Like, he thinks a huge put out is 21 points, but that was unbelievable. Where did that come from?
Well, last year, Iowa's offense definitely struggled, but, it really wasn't as black and white as, looking at it from the outside. They had a first-year quarterback who was quarantined throughout the summer due to contact tracing. They weren't able to have a true, spring practice. They weren't able to have a true fall camp. You go into a season where you have to play a straight-off Big Ten slate, and you don't have maybe a FCS opponent or a lower, D2 opponent to kind of prepare yourself and to kind of like work the kinks out. So they just started off, full on. And one of those games was against Northwestern, who has one of the best secondaries in the country. And they have a first-round pick last year. They're going to have a top pick this year. So, there were some kinks to work out, but this year, full winter, full spring, full summer, full fall, and you can feel going into the game just a different confidence among the players, and that they felt like quarterback Spencer Petras has progressed. They felt like there was better chemistry. Obviously, you have one of the best offensive linemen in the country in Todd McShay at the center of the offensive line, getting that group together, and they did exactly what they were supposed to do. They popped out with a big run by running back Tyler Goodson to start off the game, and then from there, you could just kind of feel in the stadium and feel in the atmosphere what type of game that was about to be, and they rolled that momentum to a big win.
So how did the Hawkeyes manage to escape out of week one as far as health and just having everything ducks in a row ahead of this game? I know that wide receiver Charlie Jones got banged up, but what are the status of the Hawkeyes after getting this first game under their belts?
Yeah, well, today, Ferentz said that everybody who is in long-term injury, which is somebody like Kyler Schock, for example, starting offensive lineman, they knew going into the season he would miss 3 or 4 weeks. But Charlie Jones was a full-going practice today. Tyler Linderbaum was a full-going practice today. So, no players who didn't already know going into the season were going to miss some time, practice today, and the Hawkeyes are going to be a full-go on Saturday.
Yeah, and I tell you what, this is great to have. We just saw a weekend, Kennington, as you know, with like 5 or 7 games that just seemed like, man, what a way for college football to come back. And now this one here, Iowa State, they kind of struggled. Well, they did. They struggled against Northern Iowa, who's given them problems before. What do you see with what they do with Breece Hall, the running back, obviously the quarterback who's been great, Purdy? Your thoughts about what they do against Iowa?
It's going to be an interesting matchup when you consider Iowa. Their base defense is a 4-2-5. Iowa State, obviously, they use a lot of 2 tight end sets. They're gonna run the ball with Breece Hall and Brock Purdy, and they're going to do some different things on offense. So it's going to kind of take Iowa a little bit out of the base defense. We're going to see probably more of a 3-4 look against them, which is going to present some challenges. Kirk Ferentz today was very complimentary of Breece Hall, 1,600-yard rusher. We kind of know what he's about in terms of, the Walker Award, Maxwell, potential Heisman candidate Brock Purdy, one of the all-time leading passers. He's capable with his legs as well. So, containing Breece Hall, I think, is going to be the number one priority of Iowa's defense and slowing down that running game. But, what Iowa State does schematically is going to take Iowa a little bit out of their game. So it's going to be interesting to see how they manage, more going to a 4-3 look than their base look this week.
Kennington, Kirk Ferentz has been there a long time and hasn't changed a lot. In your, I know you've only been there a brief time. What do you think has been his true staying power? Why has he been able to keep that job as long as he has?
I think that just in general, Iowa is one of those schools that is just very big on continuity. When you look even at their basketball program, Coach Trent McCaffrey has been there for a long time. Before Kirk Ferentz, they had Hayden Fry, who had coached, for a few decades, and then they, reach back into his coaching tree and bring on Ferentz, who has also coached, we're going on, I believe this is his 23rd season. So I just think, overall, it's just a university that, truly believes in continuity and not a lot of changeover. And if you are going to change over, kind of keep it within the family. So I think that it's a combination of that. And if you're going to go on the same logic of, we're going to reach back into the program, I don't want to talk out of turn here because I'm not an expert, but I don't know if they have maybe pinpointed the right successor for Ferentz yet. So, that will probably be my reasoning on why he's been able to stay for so long.
It appears, Kennington, that the Big 12 now has this, at least it looks like a plan, with 4 new teams joining the conference. As you know, when all this first went down with Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC, that, my goodness, there were rumors speculated everywhere. Do you really ever think that Iowa State was ever a goal or was ever on the radar of the Big Ten?
I think that maybe in the beginning it was something to consider. I just think that when you're looking at conference, expansion, certain things that you're going to want to look for is like TV markets, for example. But, Iowa and Iowa State being in the same state, you already kind of have that in Iowa, with that TV market. So I think that, there, are some, preliminary interest, but we talked to athletic director Gary Barta last week, and he said, as the Big Ten, when this happened, we sat down, we looked at, all the potential factors and all the potential teams, and we didn't feel comfortable moving forward with anybody. And when we talked to the Pac-12 and the ACC, they kind of felt the same way. So to me, that kind of signifies that, maybe Iowa State was of interest, maybe Kansas was of interest, and other schools. But in the end, weighing in all of the factors, it just wasn't, so attractive of a situation to where they wanted to, move forward with it other than, just giving it a quick thought.
What I like about the first weekend, the Big Ten, they had teams that matter, that played each other right off the top. Even the Minnesota-Ohio State game, you had Penn State, Wisconsin. You had the game you mentioned, you covered, Kennington, between Iowa as well.
Well, get ready with the Alliance. That's what all those games are going to be like. It's just going to be Big Ten versus Pac-12, Pac-12 versus ACC, and so on and so forth. There's the boost of the Alliance.
Go ahead.
And I was saying, that's, that as a fan and as media members, that's what we want. We want competitive games every week. We want top teams to play against each other. We want teams to go out and be aggressive in their scheduling and not be afraid to lose because they think it's going to be such a knock when it comes to playoff seeding and New Year's Six Bowl selection. So I think that, the Alliance is a good thing for college, football in response to what happened in the SEC, because I think that's just those schools' way of trying to protect themselves and still play a competitive enough schedule to when it, compares to what teams in the SEC are going to have to go up against, that they're going to have some sort of say in terms of strength of schedule, seeding, big bowl selections and things like that.
Yeah, it's good to see some game. You got a little separation. Were you surprised Indiana was so inept?
It was, it was just one of those games. Well, to answer, yes, I was surprised that it went like that, but it was just one of those games where it was just over so quickly. Like Goodson breaks off that long touchdown run, and then it's like, okay, Indiana has this high-powered offense. They could be able to strike back, and then immediately Penix throws that pick six, and 3 minutes in, it's 14-0, and it's the first time you have a sellout crowd again, and the crowd is rocking. And at that point, you could just kind of look around and say, okay, like we know that this one is over. So, and I just think that they got, shell-shocked super early, and they just weren't able to recover from that. But if you'd have told me before the game that Penix wasn't going to throw a touchdown pass, he was going to throw, 3 interceptions, and, the offense wasn't, going to score it all, I probably would have called you crazy. But, that's just a testament to, Iowa's defense. They did what they were supposed to do, not taking anything away from them. But Indiana's showing on offense was surprising for sure.
Kennington, you said this your first year on the Iowa beat?
Yes.
All right. Well, I remember when I first got on the Baylor beat, so to speak, and I remember a massive game between Baylor and Oklahoma that was super hyped up, and everybody here was going crazy. So, man, enjoy this moment this weekend because, obviously the most hype this game's ever had, Cy-Hawk Trophy, all that stuff. Definitely enjoy it, man.
Absolutely. It's going to be an incredible experience. Leading up to this, game, and even in my interview process, my editors, co-writers, colleagues were telling me how big the Cy-Hawk game is. So this week is going to be a bit of a baptism by fire for me, especially covering the game live in Ames. But I'm looking forward to it. And, again, like how often does the center of the college football world, happen to land in Iowa? So, I'm going to, live it up, and I'm hoping for a great game on both sides.
Be careful not to hang around the tailgating for too long because you'll forget there's a game going on because it's an incredible atmosphere. You're going to love it. Great people. Good luck, Kennington. Thanks for your time today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. And, if you and your viewers, your listeners didn't hate me on the listen, then we should do this again sometime.
No,
you're doing it. absolutely.
Kennington Smith III, Des Moines Register, covers Iowa and Iowa State. We'll get you again, man, and hopefully that means because Iowa's doing pretty well. And, of course, we have a friend, Adam Batchelor, huge Iowa State fan. He's a little bit nervous, as you should be. That's that good nervous about a big game.
Well, shoot, man, look at the records. You'd be nervous playing Iowa. I don't care what you're ranked if you're Iowa State. They've owned this thing, man.
They've won 5 in a row, 6 of 7, 12 of 17, and 45 of 67 over the span of the long history of the series.
But let's not forget, Iowa State lost this game last year, and they ended up okay. They lost their first game, and they turn around and get beat by Iowa, and they still end up in the Big 12 championship game. So that's like, I'm kind of struggling with my Big 12 power rankings because it's like some people go off of just the one game they've seen. And I kind of go off of what I expect, but also what we've seen. So, in some of these blowout games, it's kind of hard to say who's above who or whatever. Like, how high should I put TCU because they whooped Duquesne by 50? You know what I mean? Like, that was a great win in terms of a blowout, but it didn't really show us show us a whole lot about what to expect with TCU versus superior teams. So if you're Iowa State, you're going to have if you're Iowa, Indiana and Iowa State back-to-back games, you're going to know all about your team. Right out of the chutes. I love that.
Dennis, I think it may be Hattie or Haty, Haty. You were asking about my figures when it comes to the Big 12. Craig's off the radar is next about the $300 million, and it would be $25 million per each of the 12 teams of the new Big 12 if they extend it. And you mentioned that's what the SEC gets. The SEC, that's just one.
They get way more than that.
They did a $300 million deal just for the 2:30 kickoff game. That's not for the entire networks covering the SEC. That's just for the 2:30 start. They get as much for that game as some conferences, or in fact more than some conferences are getting from their television revenue combined. When we come back, Craig Smoak off the radar, and this is Sycamore 365 Radio. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Yep, they do. And Marco's Pizza is also what you want when it comes to fresh dough. And you hear that from pizza places all the time. But we order Marco's Pizza all the time here to 101 Elm and Sycamore 365 Radio and 365 Sports. 3 fresh signature cheeses. Of course, the original. Oh, my goodness, delicious sauce that you put on it. And then you put whatever else on. I love all meat. That's what I want on my pizza. Sometimes I'll even ask for extra Italian sausage, and it's even better if it's got a little spice to it. And you order it, deliver it, you enjoy it, you take it home, and pizza, of course, sometimes the next day is better than it was when it arrived. And you can get that at Marco's Pizza. 4 locations now in Waco. China Spring, Woodway, Bell Mead, and Bell Mead's the store that delivers to us near McLean Stadium. And how about that Robinson is, of course, right there about to open as well. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
It's time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, or get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 6 on Wednesday. Pick up on Friday afternoon after 2 or Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish available right now for $4.25 a pound. Find all the crawfish boil ingredients you need, including red beef potatoes, sausage, corn cobbettes, and Louisiana boil seasoning. Make your order for live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. Pick up on Friday after 2 or all day Saturday, and enjoy the weekend. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for fresh baked kolache, cinnamon rolls every day. Butcher shop to cut your steaks the way you want. Fresh seafood, summer sausage, boudin, house-cured and smoked bacon, spices, seasonings, soup mixes, and more, and weekly gift boxes for any occasion. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
All right, welcome back into Sikkim 365 Radio. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, David Smoak. Time for Off the Radar, a little break in the show on Tuesdays and Thursdays where we go over some of the non-major college football or major NFL type of headlines or those having to do with a lot of the stuff locally that we pass along. I want to start off today with a sad passing in college football. Sam Cunningham, former Southern Cal and NFL running back, passed away at 71 years old, according to USC. Sam Bam Cunningham, he was somebody who played a huge role in the integration in college football. As a freshman in 1970, he was one of 3 black starters in the USC backfield, along with quarterback Jimmy Jones and running back Clarence Davis. Ran for 135 yards and 2 touchdowns in a 42-20 win over Alabama in his debut. At the time, Alabama and Bear Bryant had not yet integrated, and his performance was one of the keys to, eventually Bear Bryant opening up his eyes and Alabama itself opening up and moving towards the same ways of life. So credited for playing a huge role in that. He passed away today at age 71.
Sam Bam Cunningham, the 4-touchdown game against the Rose Bowl. I remember that to this day. I can't tell you who scored 4. Yes, I do. I can't tell you who scored touchdowns in the Rose Bowl last year. Did they even have one? They didn't. It was in Arlington.
Yeah, the Rose Bowl was in Arlington.
But, he's one of the – you hear about Marcus Allen, Charles White, obviously O.J. Simpson, Reggie Bush, among others. He wasn't that, level. Those guys were Heisman Trophy winners or, elite. But he was I think he might have played with the Patriots. I could be wrong in the NFL, but he was, I hated to see that. That brings back memories for me. That's my childhood.
Yeah, he was the following year after Alabama lost to them, and USC had him and the other 2 that I mentioned. The very next year, Wilbur Jackson, running back, became the first black player in Alabama history. So he made some history, led to some history, obviously was a great player as well. And one of the big quotes that's been flying around, and when you got a quote like this, after your passing, you did something right in life. But Jerry Claiborne on Cunningham did more to integrate Alabama in 60 minutes than Martin Luther King did in 20 years. I mean, what a quote that is.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
He's also the brother of Randall Cunningham.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what's funny about that when it comes to integration or like big things happening? Sometimes it's just a little thing that makes people go,
yeah.
Oh, you mean I have more people to recruit from? Mm-hmm. That's better.
Yes, nice.
Oh, hey, what do you know?
Nice to have options. So, rest in peace.
Or this, let's be honest. Oh, damn, they're beating us with them, and I mean that, and not any particular, but we need to start recruiting certain type players that we haven't been.
Well, Bear Bryant definitely saw what happened and said we have to recruit black players.
No,
I think that's obvious. Yeah. So whether it was the most honest opening up of the heart, or it was motivated by wins and losses or whatever, at least it led to that. I think that's the big picture point, is that it did lead to people expanding and opening up their horizons, whether personally that was still their choices or not. But, was a key figure in the integration in college football. Rest in peace to Sam Bam Cunningham, a USC legend. This is a weird story. You might have mentioned this in the headlines, but I don't think you did. But UConn coach Randy Edsel stepping down immediately. He had announced after, last weekend's loss, that he was going to close out at the end of the season, leave the UConn football program, but they've now started 0-2, and he's nixing the whole I'm going to finish the season thing.
6-32 or 6-28, something like that. He had 6 wins, whatever it is, in his time back, his second go-around with UConn. Mm-hmm. And I think they just said, what's the difference?
Yeah, I mean, what is the difference? They lost 45-0 to Fresno State, and then they lost to Holy Cross. So that was, he had to have lost that first game and thought, we'll beat Holy Cross. And then you lose that game, and that's enough. So Randy Edsel out immediately. That was put out there yesterday. Do you guys know what the most popular name in fantasy football in some circles is this year?
No.
Well, for Yahoo Fantasy, the top nickname for fantasy teams is now Bishop Sycamore. That has climbed the rankings over the last few weeks. Last Thursday, it was the 14th most popular name. Over the weekend, it jumped up to 5th, and today it slid into first place. Over 10,000 Yahoo users have Bishop Sycamore as their team name.
Most people had their drafts over the weekend, so...
Yeah, exactly. So it jumped up a little bit. Run CMC, of course, Christian McCaffrey is the second most. But Bishop Sycamore is by and large the most popular name on there. And that story's not done. Their coach over the weekend made some comments that were very interesting, and he basically said that they're not a real football, or they're not a school. He basically just said,
let's play high school football, but we really aren't a high school.
Yeah, he basically said that they're not a real high school in terms of how we think of it. And I'm trying to find his exact quote. I can't find it now all of a sudden. But
we're not a real high school, but we are a high school, a post school or academy.
Yeah, he said we do not offer curriculum. We do not offer curriculum. We are not a school.
Yeah.
Was an exact quote of his. That's not what Bishop Sycamore is, and I think that's what the biggest misconception about us was, and that was our fault because that was a mistake on paperwork.
Yeah. So how do they, legally play? I guess they're not. They're trying to play a national schedule, so people can play whoever they want. Johnny Tusa many times has had a team from Mexico come up here that I think some of the kids are 19 years old.
They come over here and they get their butts whooped. And
so you can do it. It doesn't count, as far as the playoffs go, but it's a tune-up for your team and whatnot. So I don't know why you'd want to play a team like Bishop Sycamore, though. What benefit does it give your team at all? In the non-district especially, the point for most high schools, and not just in Texas but around the country, is let's see how good we are.
Yeah. So Tyron Jackson, who is the new head coach, gave that beauty of a quote. It further backed it up. Apparently, they are identified as a non-charter, non-tax supported school, but as has been thrown out there, they don't have a building. They don't have an address. They don't have anything that would indicate that they're a school other than this football team, basically. And he also went on to call them, the new head coach, Tyron Jackson, they're not a school. They are a post-grad football academy. So there's Bishop Sycamore staying in the news and now the most popular name.
Post-grad means you graduate.
In Yahoo Fantasy Football.
When I was a post-high school graduate, I was a college student. Or if you're not a college student, then you're what's called an adult.
Yes,
like those
exactly.
are the two things that you are. You're an adult no matter what, but you're a college student or you're not. I mean, that's what you are post-high school.
Yeah, I saw this from Field Yates. He put out and this is no surprise, but the 5 schools with the most players on active NFL rosters as we start to get the season underway. You're not going to be surprised by any of these, but any guess about who is number 1? Most players in the NFL currently?
Alabama?
Yep, 53 players gives Alabama 53 current NFL players, dude. Think about that.
That's a whole roster.
Yeah,
that's a whole
53 freaking man roster.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And like 3 of them are starting quarterbacks.
And I got to tell you, I don't know what Miami's tap number was, or FSU in the day, or Alabama, or USC, or Oklahoma, Texas. I don't know. I can't imagine it was ever near anything like half of that.
Well, I mean, a whole portion of the league is propped up by 5 teams. I mean, here it is. Alabama's got 53 current NFL players. That's the most. Ohio State, number 2, they have 50. LSU has 46, good enough for 3rd. And then Georgia and Notre Dame both have quite a bit of a drop, but still, they both got tied for 4th.
So Miami still has 50-something?
I didn't mention Miami at all.
Who was second besides?
Alabama, Ohio State,
Okay.
LSU with 46, and then Georgia and Notre Dame both have 35 current
I'm going to try to
in
go
the
find
NFL.
out about 2006 or 7, or maybe even earlier, how many Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah.
We might have been in the NFL at one time. That's for another day.
Here's a small Baylor note, but the WNBA unveiled its W25, top 25 players as they celebrate their 25-year history. And, of course, there were a lot of familiar names, Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi, basically all the UConn players. You know, they're all like WNBA Hall of Famers. But it was unveiled yesterday, and Baylor's Brittany Griner was one of those W25, one of the top 25 players in WNBA history. So congratulations to Brittany Griner, and maybe we'll see her around a little bit more than we saw her the last few years with Nikki Collin, now the head coach. But that's a cool honor.
Good for her.
Yeah, I thought this was cool. So Fordham and Nebraska met on Saturday. How about them Huskers? 52-7, baby.
Yeah, yay.
I mean, it's better than week 1.
No, I know it is. Yeah.
Well, linebacker Ryan Greenhagen, he plays for Fordham. He set an NCAA record on Saturday against Nebraska. He was credited with 30 tackles in the 52-7 loss, and they reviewed the tape afterwards and actually found, oh no, he actually had another tackle. He had 31 total tackles versus Nebraska. So what does that do? That breaks the NCAA Division I record for most tackles in a game with 31. But Fordham SID Joe DeBari said that his 31st tackle was realized after after he admitted that another player had made the tackle. So instead of just, I'm going to have this record of 31 tackles, he was actually the one to come forward and say, no, that was my teammate that did that. So they took away the tackle, ties the record. But just a little bit of honesty and good sportsmanship. And I think that's good karma, man. I think that pays off for you in the long run. But very selfless thing to do, even if it would have been found out later. But shoot, still having 30 tackles in a game, that's pretty incredible.
Yep, good for him.
So kudos to Fordham linebacker Ryan Greenhagen. Remember last year when the Broncos had like their whole quarterback room out for a game? It was COVID protocols and all of that. Well, remember the Broncos got really upset and they were like, well, what about this team and what about that team as far as when it came to COVID protocols? And remember Ravens Steelers got delayed because there was a bunch of it, but they didn't delay when the Broncos had their entire quarterback room out. And we now know why. The reason why was because the NFL caught on to the fact that the Broncos quarterbacks were breaking protocols left and right. You're always on camera, folks. You're always on camera, and that includes at team facilities. So John Elway had been, going back and forth. He was looking for, that game to be postponed at the time because, hey, they didn't have any quarterback. But the league denied those requests because surveillance videos showed that Denver's facility showed the quarterbacks tried to fool the system. They removed their contact tracing devices and put them in the 4 corners of the meeting room, then sat together to watch film. That close contact made them immediately ineligible to play. God. So just a silly thing, but that was why Denver was without all of their quarterbacks last year and why the NFL said, we're still not canceling the game. You're going to have to deal with it.
I wonder why when people do those things, and that's probably an easy way to do it, that's also like if I was trying to count my steps and just, put my watch on the dog and like, man, you've got 40,000 steps today. Well, yeah, the dog has 2 more legs than I do. So, but
you'd have to put one on each leg.
No, he's just going to walk a lot more than I will. He's going to count steps. But I don't know. Like the lady that got in a cab at the Boston Marathon, the New York Marathon.
Yeah, no, that was a while back. Yeah,
but
all of a sudden they dropped her off.
You broke the record by 11 minutes.
Yeah. So they got found out, and that's why that happened. That's why you had a former wide receiver, this Kendall Hinton, that came in and actually played in that game, recorded pass completion, so good for him. Final couple stories here. Todd McShay is going to be off of television for a little while. He's stepping away from ESPN for an unspecified amount of time. Said he's going to take some time away to focus on health and family, and thanked ESPN for being so supportive and for their well wishes. Said he can't wait to be back on the sideline soon. I don't know if you saw him this past weekend. He's had kind of incident here and there, but I don't know what's going on. He's either got something neurological or something that is perhaps substance related, but it's cringe. It's really hard to watch him trying to talk, and it's not the first time. I mean, there's various videos out there of the last couple years of him struggling to speak for whatever reason. It hasn't been said that he's like getting treatment or anything, but he's clearly got something going on because he's not all the way he should be, and so he's going to be taken off of ESPN for a while, and they had taken him off of a game during the middle of a game last year, if you'll remember, because it was just something was clearly wrong. So Todd McShay stepping away for a little while, and he did have COVID too. So some people have assumed that maybe like lasting effects from that or whatever, but this kind of goes back a couple years now at this point. So I wish Todd McShay the best in dealing with whatever he's dealing with.
Yeah, best of luck to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, I wanted to say this note: baseball. We don't talk much baseball because with football going on, there's just so much. But y'all kept up with Joey Gallo since the Rangers traded him?
A little bit.
Not going great.
I thought it would be perfect for him there.
They sat him yesterday.
Well, they're sure doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Sat him yesterday, reason being he is hitting 130 and has struck out 61 times in 123 at-bats. Who did they think they were trading for? Because that sounds like Joey Gallo as a Ranger, quite frankly, although the batting average is a little bit lower than it was with Texas.
Some people cannot play in the Bronx. Randy Johnson couldn't do it.
He was a Hall of Famer. Yeah.
It is a tough place to play. I mean, it is a meat grinder of expectations. Look, and you have a lot of media in Dallas that cover the Rangers. You got 2 newspapers, and you've got, radio stations and TV stations that are there. But do you walk into that media room after you go 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, or they come up to your locker after you strike out with a runner on third that would have won the game in the 9th? They ask you a lot harder questions. It is like that's the most comparable thing to being a Cowboy.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, you can't have a couple bad nights and then it's just like it's part of the deal. It's like, no, it's different with that New York media. So yeah, he is basically struck out in half of his 123 at bats since becoming a Yankee. So they sat him yesterday. We'll see if that kicks him into an extra gear, but I hadn't talked about him since he left, and I think the Rangers have done okay. They're not missing much. They're clearly not very good, but we'll see what happens with Joey Gallo. So there are a few things that are off the radar.
Bunch of stuff to get to. Thank you. And then until Thursday, Craig's got a couple of wrestling notes. We've done this before. I gave him a couple of notes. Like I even saw something and sent it to him, and it's a new network or whatever.
Oh, it's AEW All Out, baby, this past weekend. It was off the freaking chain. If you like wrestling at all, then it was the best pay-per-view I've seen in 25 years.
CM Punk or something like that.
CM Punk was back. Bryan Danielson made his debut. Yeah. Ruby Soho.
Lord.
AEW All Out was
Thursday.
It was awesome. It was freaking awesome.
And I heard a lot of good responses from it just watching some of the Twitter timeline.
Trended for like 2 days.
All right, we're going to talk to James Crapia. He covers Oregon at 5:20. John McClain today at 5:35 or so on the NFL's opening week. The Hall of Fame writer, Paul's Top 5 in less than an hour. And this is Sycamore 365 Radio.
BetUS, the 3-decade leader serving clients for 25-plus years, prides themselves on being known as America's favorite sportsbook. Okay, here's the promo codes. Sycamore125 and Sycamore200. NFL, Thursday night, you can make bets on them. 125% bonus on cash when you start an account of $100 or more, or a 200% bonus if you use crypto for BetUS.com. BetUS.com. And again, the NFL starts Thursday. Lots of great action on college football this weekend as well. And they've also got action on every sport across the world, so they can pretty much guarantee that they've got your game. And BetUS offers the industry's biggest retail bonuses to keep their players betting longer, like Sycamore 125 and Sycamore 200. The BetUS loyalty program, legendary. They keep their players up to date with articles, players, team stats, and trends, giving you the right tools to make the best wagering decisions. That's BetUS.com. Use promo code Sycamore125 and Sycamore200.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
At Impact Research Institute, we can help you identify if you have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and measure for liver stiffness or scarring. If you or a loved one has diabetes, high cholesterol, hypertension, obesity, or concerns about your liver health, Impact Research Institute may be able to help by providing liver health screenings quickly at no cost, physician counseling, and opportunities to qualify for clinical trials. Visit us at impactresearchtx.com for more.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Not only will you find an award-winning dealer at Allen Samuels, but you'll also find some great award-winning products. The 2021 Ram brand was ranked the #1 automotive brand on J.D. Power's initial quality study. The 2021 Dodge brand ranked #2 behind Ram, and the 2021 Jeep Gladiator named highest quality midsize truck. Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340 in Waco, where we deliver quality.
Come by, let's be friends.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sycamore 365 Radio.
Corral pulls it. Matt going for the end zone. Touchdown, Matt Corral.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Former Baylor tennis player Jensen Brook last night was facing Djokovic in the U.S. Open, lost in 4 sets, but won the opening set, 6-1, but eventually just succumbed to the greatness of Djokovic. 6-1, I don't even have the 4th set, but he lost 3 sets after he won the opening set. It's pretty good, climbing the charts.
He never played at Baylor, though, did he? Didn't he enroll, and then he never even ended up playing, I don't think? But he was the big commit for what was his name? Brian Boland at the time. And but Brooksby, good young player, and Baylor guy. He enrolled and had it all set up, but decided to turn pro. So
and good reason why.
Yeah.
He looks like he's
now
gonna
facing Djokovic.
Yeah, he's playing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so good for him and the nice run that he made as well. Mike George sent this to me. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I don't have time for that. But Walter Umphrey passed away earlier today. This is a letter from Dr. Livingstone, the president. Since we've been on the air, he, of course, was, the quote from her is, Walter Umphrey epitomized what it means to be a Baylor alumnus, a law career, legendary. It's part of that law firm, the commitment to his family as a leader in the community. So Walter Umphrey passed away. Longtime Baylor donor who has names, I believe,
the bridge.
Umphrey Law. Isn't it the law school as well? Am I right? And I know that if you're a Baylor alum, you'll just drill me with whatever the truth is. But
well, at least I'll know. I have no idea what all the buildings are named after. I'll be perfectly honest with you, but I know the Umphrey Bridge.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
The Umphrey Bridge, which is near the law school. That's what I didn't go to Baylor, didn't attend Baylor, and have been covering them since 2010. This is from Raymond. I try my hardest, if I was Mac, to get ABC and Fox or any other non-cable airtime on public television.
PBS games aren't going to get you many ratings, but problem with ABC, they're owned by ESPN, they're under the same umbrella, the Disney umbrella. So ABC and ESPN are compadres, are twins. So that's not going to be a door that opens to you to counterbalance an ESPN. So, that wouldn't work. ABC's had a good relationship with the Big 12 over the years. So, I don't know, man. Everybody brings up like NBC or CBS once they lose the SEC, and I don't think they've really charted their course as far as what they're going to do college football-wise. Without Bob Bowlesby basically slamming the brakes on Oklahoma and Texas there for a second, I think ESPN was about to own everything college football for the most part.
Well, I think
Fox
they want to. Yeah,
Fox is involved, but they don't seem to be making the types of moves to position themselves to be like some big, challenger but people are expecting them to be, and yet I don't see any movement towards them actually pursuing that based on what we've seen so far.
That opening that CBS Sports had that was so, it still to this day reverberates. So, oh well. All right, let's see here. The chat room's kind of calmed down a little bit. There were some comments about numbers and revenue or whatever.
You brought those up.
Yep, I did. Yeah. When will Brigham Young, Houston, Cincinnati, UCF submit their applications to the Big 12? Will we see a formal letter like Oklahoma and Texas sent to the SEC? I think those letters are being probably drawn up right now. We mentioned earlier. The University of Houston has given their chancellor the green light. Go do what you can do when it comes to some sort of conference, affiliation. I would think that that's being done pretty quickly. Boy, you talk about that escalated quickly. Mm-hmm. Isn't there a Will Ferrell gif?
That's from Anchorman.
Yeah, that escalated quickly.
Well, it did, and now the alliance has kind of calmed the waters on the Pac-12. And I'll tell you what, though, there's a new thing that's being debated in college athletics that's going to be the biggest problem they've ever faced. Hands down the biggest problem they've ever faced. And that's, I believe it's in a Pennsylvania court. There's a suit that's been brought by a handful of former athletes, and basically it's the push for college athletes to be considered employees. And I'm going to tell you right now that in some states, they will look at what college athletes do and say, yeah, that looks like what an employee should be. Yeah, you should be considered you meet all the criteria, you should be an employee. I don't know if that'll be the case across the entire country, but I've already seen several legal people who have talked about this is going to be the biggest challenge they've ever faced, because if that were to happen and colleges have to start doing that, we were talking about realignment and everybody was kind of getting jittery over programs are going to close and blah. This would actually do all of those things that we were talking about. This would absolutely schools would just say, all right, we're done with football. And then they would subsequently be done with pretty much all their other sports as well. There would be colleges who just don't have sports for the most part if this goes all the way through.
And you may want to bring that up to Mac.
Well, and, the thing that it gets, tricky in legalese is part of the thing the NCAA has subsisted on for so long is that they were getting an exception. There was kind of an exception because you were getting this, but then when the fair market value of what people were getting to the amount of time they were spending tilted away, or just fundamental things, name, image, and likeness. And I think that the people who are against it have never seen this. Okay, look, you're not a college athlete, and I know that scholarship and all that is expensive, but outside of that scholarship, they don't own their own name. That is fundamentally un-American to not own your own name. So that at its core is a different thing, but the courts are going to have to say that being a college athlete is different than being an employee. The problem is that, okay, if I've taken a scholarship and I'm required to be at the football facility this many hours a day, sounds an awful lot like a job at the base level, even though it is different.
What are the negatives to that, though, for the athlete?
Well, the negatives to the athlete also are, other than what Craig said,
they're not going to have spots to play anywhere.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, idiots. And that's the thing is, I know this seems like the thing to probably do. It's athletes from, let me see here. I just had it. Handful of colleges. There's somebody from Villanova, Fordham, Sacred Heart, Cornell, and Lafayette. And I'm sure some of those, an Ivy League type of school, will be just not much will change, right? Ivy Leagues will probably just maintain, what they do. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not privately subsidized or have some giant, what do they call that, endowment, or you're screwed if this goes all the way through.
Well, the other thing is it's going to absolutely obliterate non-revenue sports.
Oh, they're gone, dude. They're gone.
Football and basketball will be there. And then the non-revenues will be gone.
Texas would still have all of its sports probably. Michigan, Ohio State. But I couldn't say for certain Baylor would keep every sport. But then Title IX comes into play. And so this lawsuit, I'm sure it's well-intended, although I'm sure a lot of it's a money grab in some ways. But I don't know that the people who are moving forward this realize, as much as there's probably good intentions, this would absolutely have a devastating effect on college athletes.
Okay, and also, you just got NIL, which you can make more money than ever being an employee at college.
Right. So. Never enough.
You got the dam broke. The dam broke. And now, okay, we get this. We want this. Eventually, you're going to ask for something so much that you lose all of it.
Eventually, not going to be a college softball team to play on.
Let's discuss Oregon football coming up. They have Ohio State this week and much more. Sycamore, 365 Radio. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, Pioneer Boys. Pioneer Steel and Pipe has been in business since 1943. Think about that. Golly, they've dealt with it all. And even the last year or two, distribution issues and things that you got to work through. And they have metal roofing, metal buildings, pipe and steel. They have been in business since 1943, building their brand new structure just off of Loop 340 and 12th Street. It's going to be beautiful, but they will never lose the core of who they are. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where when you walk in the door, you probably feel, you see other people, but the way that they treat you, you're pretty much the only customer right there, although they are, of course, working with others. Their product is incredible. Their customer service is unmatched, and you have both, and you stay in business since 1943. Thrive, Waco, and Bryan, pioneerboys.com.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me. Genco is my credit union. They're always there for me. They're people I trust. They treat me like family.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Life is back on, sports bettors, and BetUS has your NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, UFC, PGA, and yes, NFL betting lines up for their 27th year and live betting on all of it. Log into BetUS.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BETUS. BetUS for 125% bonuses with promo code SYCAM125. Customer service pros are ready to get your phone, social, and online sports betting kickoff started now. Play with the proven mainstay in the industry. BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. Use promo code SYCAM125.
It's Baylor football season, and as always, Berg Colgin Ford supports the green and gold. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgin Ford. It's time for team celebrations and BU touchdowns. Berg Colgin Ford is your home team when it comes to trucks and tailgates. Ford has the perfect truck for you to host a top-ranked tailgate party. Here's to a winning season for our hometown Bears. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sick 'em Bears.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy old world pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sycamore 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John McClain of the Houston Chronicle, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
We'll have John McClain in the next segment. We're joined by James Crapea. He is with the Oregonian, covers University of Oregon football, with us on Sycamore 365 Radio. What's the feeling right now around Eugene after Fresno State?
First and foremost, I was going to say I would be totally misbilled, and surely it would be disappointing to somebody if they're expecting John McClain and got me.
Yeah, I know.
Far be it for me to that would have been. I very much respect the man's resume. I am most definitely not Mr. McClain in terms of that, but no. In seriousness, no, the feeling around Eugene is that of I'd say relative angst. Far be it for me to speak on behalf of an Oregon fan base by any stretch of the imagination, but all I've gotten by way of feedback in the social media verse and emails and the like over the last couple of days has been just nothing but abject, I would say skepticism would be the least of it. It is downright pessimism at the moment because they're not happy with the display that they saw on Saturday. They are not happy with the performance that Oregon had against Fresno State. And this fan base is extrapolating based on that performance, which was not impressive by any stretch of the imagination, but was also being played very close to the vest. They're unwilling, many of them, unwilling to accept that strategically Oregon may have been playing things close to the vest against Fresno State, and any errors that may have occurred along the way, no matter how good the defense may have played at times. This is a fan base that is filled with, like I say, a pretty good degree of pessimism and angst heading into this game with Ohio State because they feel like they just watched the team underperform against Fresno State, and they know that Ohio State is a massive test coming up, and they don't believe that that kind of performance that they just saw will result in anything positive against a far better opponent.
Kayvon Thibodeau, is he going to be able to play? He was in a boot the other night.
That is the most important question and the most important ankle as far as this week is concerned, and probably all of college football, to be sure. Certainly for Oregon and Ohio State in the game, but being that it is the most marquee game in the sport this week, that's why I say it's probably the most important ankle in all of college football. I'm not going to say I'm a doctor by any stretch of the imagination. If you're looking for a degree of optimism that he will play, and frankly, anybody, whether they're an Oregon fan, Ohio State fan, or just an objective viewer of an 11 a.m. Central Time kickoff on Saturday, you should want to see the best defensive end in the country, the best pass rusher in the country, play against an Ohio State offensive line loaded with talent and 4 tackles along the offensive line, by trade at least, tackles along the offensive line. And you should want to see the best go up against the best. You should want to see that caliber of play. The degree of optimism there is that after he got rolled up on, he got attended to, he got taped up, he moved around under his own power, he returned to the field, and even made a tackle. Now, yeah, he left the game before halftime, didn't return, and like you said, he's in a walking boot thereafter. Can all of that be precautionary? Absolutely. Would you want to protect him at all costs? And if you were a coach in that spot, absolutely. Does that mean that he's absolutely going to play on Saturday this week? No. It's an ankle sprain, and obviously when you're a player of his caliber and do what he does, having great strength and dexterity in your ankles is awfully important. So I'm not going to be tough in somebody else's body. I'm not going to profess to be a doctor. The optimism is he was able to get back out there even in the course of last week. Pessimism is you're still dealing with an ankle sprain. And, you hope going up against, like I say, an offensive line that really has 4 tackles along the line. That's a lot of long and big bodies that you don't want to go up against at anything less than your best. And if he is able to go, he's probably not going to be 100%. And that's not good no matter who you root for.
So, James, Anthony Brown, started off at Boston College, did a lot there for 3 years, and now been in Eugene for the last couple, gets the nod this past weekend. What were the feelings from Ducks fans on how he performed or didn't perform, and what are the thoughts on him heading into this game against the Buckeyes?
Yeah, it's been really kind of interesting to gauge and understand where the Oregon fan base kind of come down on Brown, where last year they were very, very optimistic about Tyler Shuck, who's now at Texas Tech, of course, led that win over Houston for Texas Tech this past weekend. They were high on Shuck going into the season, and then once things started to tail off a little bit midway through the year, suddenly they got very down on Shuck, and they all wanted Brown to come in. The last year it was they couldn't get enough Anthony Brown. He was going to fix all the problems. By the way, problems that were there with a quarterback in Tyler Shuck who only led the league in passer efficiency, but, problems. Okay. Now, heading into the year, knowing that he was the only quarterback with any game experience on the roster, and yes, with some very talented freshmen who are here as well, this fan base was almost like, well, yeah, that's nice that guy is there. But about that 5-star freshman over there,
yeah.
and then it was like, oh, well, you mean the guy who took all the first team reps in the spring and all the first team reps in the first fall scrimmage and all that? You mean that guy won the job? No, surely that must be wrong. And then they were down on the announcement when it came out. I'm going, were you really expecting a different outcome here? I mean, this was like the worst kept secret around this town for the last 5-6 months. Like, really? Okay. And then he goes out and performs. And again, I thought the game plan as a whole was pretty close to the best and pretty conservative. And yeah, he missed a couple of throws. He also made a couple of pretty nice plays, including the game-winning touchdown with his feet. Mm-hmm. But all anybody wants to talk about is, well, his percentage wasn't good enough. I thought it was okay. It wasn't great. As the coaches even said, they called it solid. Anthony wasn't happy with his own performance after Saturday's game. He had a rushing touchdown, again, to win the game, a passing touchdown that was thrown on an absolute line for 32 yards. It was a great throw. He missed some throws. Yeah, he did. In his first start in 700 days. And against a Fresno State team that, while they're not going to be competing, for the playoff or anything like that, they're not a pushover. They are well coached. They have a lot of transfers out of the Pac-12 and other power conferences on that roster, including at quarterback. They have the most prolific all-around running back in the country by way of production. I'm not going to tell you that Ronnie Rivers is the best running back, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And they have a defensive front seven that generated in the top 20 in sacks a year ago. Well, you throw all that together, it's like, well, yeah, in his first start in 700 days, the guy is going to face some pressure, and it's not going to be all pretty. And by the way, the game that matters is next week. But right now, this fan base is they're almost cannibalizing right now. It's like I say, it's hard to, for a game of the good, you want to say, aren't you folks optimistic? And you'd be like, they're ready to pounce on me just for even bringing up the idea of trying to be optimistic to anybody. And I'm like, good grief.
Yeah, it's your fault, damn it. It is.
And the backup quarterback's always the most popular player most of the time.
Well, that's a given. That's a given.
Yeah, and I think last year they ended up playing 8 games, and they got smoked by Iowa State, and or whatever, there's 7 games, and then maybe a little antsy. But Ohio State is obviously incredibly explosive. They weren't flawless against Minnesota, who scratched and clawed for 3 quarters. But boy, what about the secondary of Oregon against those weapons that Ohio State seems to have running every way you can in the secondary?
Absolutely. Well, that's obviously one of the big matchups of the game in an area that no matter who Ohio State plays is going to have a decided, they're going to have a decided advantage. And that's just the way it goes. Having said that, Oregon does have a really talented outside corner, Michael Wright, one of their top recruits for a couple of years ago. He started all the games last season. Yes, in the short season, as you mentioned. Got picked on a little bit as a first-year starter last year, but he got that experience. And he went up against a couple of good receivers last year. Guys who are now in the NFL. Well, now he's their best corner because their other corner is in the NFL. And they had to break in a couple of young guys last week. So they gave up nearly 300 yards passing, but nobody got beat over the top. Nobody got a ball over their head. Yeah, they gave up some short stuff, and all right, maybe they needed to be a little bit more aggressive as young guys in their first, major significant game action. But to your point of how do they match up with this Ohio State vaunted offense where every strike that they had last week against Minnesota was for huge chunks of yards, and you know what Olave can do in blowing the top off the coverage. Wilson can make plays in open space like crazy. Ruckert is an unbelievable matchup at tight end, and that's just to name 3. Yeah. They have probably another 3. And doesn't even mention their running back. Look, I'm not telling you they're going to be able to keep a lid on everything all the time. I don't think anyone in the country can against this Ohio State offense. But I think anybody who's going to attempt to win at Ohio Stadium against this offense, against this receiving core in particular, you can give up one over your head. What I call a nameplate or tail light play. You can give up one because I don't know if anybody can get away with giving up 0. That's really hard.
Yeah, they are so explosive.
But I don't know if anybody can go in that building, especially a team who has loaded with basically a roster who has never played in a building of that size. Very few players on this roster do it. And the Pac-12 doesn't have any stadiums of 110,000 or 90,000, which is currently the ticket sales at the moment. You cannot let that crowd get into it and momentum just completely get at you that badly, where the crowd becomes the 12th man of that element, and you're the road team. And now what? You're in if you give up 2 long plays for touchdowns against them, and that's 14 points, you could be in for a long day. And we're just talking on the long plays. We're not even talking about the, dink and dunks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if Oregon's going to win this game, they have to grind out a game in the 20s and control the game on the ground. And I know that's not very appealing to Ducks fans right now who want, they want their offense to look like what Alabama did or what LSU did. And it doesn't everybody. I mean, that sounds lovely. And I'm sure in Big 12 country, everyone thinks everyone can do that every week. But, that's what you see from Oklahoma over the years. Well, Oregon's working to that, but they're not there yet. And it's not because of Anthony Brown, or it's not because they were conservative in play calling in the first week. It's just in order to do that, you have to have all the weapons. They're getting there. And they may have the potential to get there and show splashes of it along the way this season. I just think they're a little bit away on their chronology to getting to that level of a vaunted offense. They don't have Ohio State's offense. They don't have Ohio State's weapons right now. Not today.
James, so Oregon and Ohio State are alliance members. They're a part of that that big alliance.
Does that come with a card and everything?
Yeah, so this is a game that we'll probably
AARP.
It's a game we'll probably see in the future. I would imagine on more than one occasion is one of those non-conference type of games. But what has been the buzz in the Northwest with realignment now starting to look like it's settling it down a little bit? I mean, what's been the reaction to the alliance announcement and just all of the moving pieces that the Big 12 shook, or all the moving pieces in the Big 12 that kind of shook the nation there for a few weeks?
Well, I think it's, again, from gauging, part of it was a little bit of an element of excitement of, well, is this league going to expand? And obviously they didn't. And there are a million reasons why ultimately they didn't. And nothing really fit, to be perfectly honest with you. Not well, certainly. Yeah. So then it became, all right, well, if you stick with 12, what do you do here? This concept that's being bandied around, I do think that it makes a lot of sense. All fans hear from it is about scheduling. They don't want to hear about autonomy 5 votes and equivalency scholarships, and they don't, that we're getting into the weeds. To your point, what does it mean for scheduling? How do fans react to that? Look, it's very odd in this league in that you hear something like that and you get fans who the immediate reaction, some go, hey, it's great. Yeah, I'm looking forward, want to be able to go to more places and, see places that, ordinarily you don't necessarily see, and vice versa, and play some teams you don't normally play. And that'd be kind of cool, rather than a cross-division opponent in the Pac-12 from the north to the south and vice versa, who may not matter very much, quite honestly. Washington State, Arizona is not really moving the needle
right.
for a lot of folks. Okay, yeah, sure. Why not? And yet, here we are this week, and this has come up many times before. And this is not just an Oregon-Ohio State thing. This is definitely an Oregon fan-based talking point for some reason that just escapes me. And it's also going to come up at Colorado with Texas A&M and other places in this league. There's a very strange position from Pac-12 fans basically arguing, like, where is the merit? Where is the point in scheduling these really difficult non-conference games? So on one hand, you bring up the alliance. You talk about adding an opponent of a different kind of caliber, improving strength of schedule, adding a little bit of excitement. And on one hand, you get, yeah, maybe that sounds good. And then the same people, in some cases, go, but don't schedule anybody too tough. And it's like, well, how do you think you're going to win a national championship? By just skating by long enough and maybe the actual good teams get knocked off and you just play the pincushions the whole way? It's a very strange mindset. To me, you don't get that. You don't get successful. You don't become at the level of Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Oklahoma, Ohio State. You do not reach their pinnacles right now by just trying to skate by. And there is a portion of Pac-12 fans, for some reason, who have this insistence that if they can just schedule easy enough and stay on the Pac-12 network where nobody can watch them long enough, that they can sneak in and then get their doors blown off in the first game of the playoff semifinal, and that will be a success. I don't understand it. It blows. I cannot begin to wrap my head around it, but I'm trying to digest it. I'm at it for nearly 3 years. I'm trying to digest it out here, trying to understand where people come from with this whole thought process and notion. It's bizarre.
Yeah, James, we got to go, but one of the reasons is because you were right smack in the middle of the SEC country covering Auburn, and so you know the mentality there.
What they think. Down there, bring it on. Down there, it's there, Texas and Oklahoma, and there's Arkansas and Mississippi State saying, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah,
that's the heart of a competitor. Not, hey, can you know what? Can you make sure if we get in the alliance, can you make sure it's Wake Forest and Syracuse for us? That's not the heart of a champion. The heart of a champion is bring on anyone.
James,
and if it means losing a little bit, so be it.
I think we allowed you to vent a little bit here just a minute. That's great. James, it's always great to have you on. Thanks for being a part of it, buddy. Have fun this weekend.
Thanks, guys.
James Crepia from the Oregonian. He used to cover Auburn. By the way, December 18th, Oregon will host the defending national champion men's basketball team from Baylor. It's up on his timeline as well. As we mentioned, Baylor's non-conference schedule, games at Oregon, at Alabama, and at home against Villanova.
Is that
Stanford.
Alabama, the SEC Challenge?
Yeah, the SEC Challenge. And then, of course, the gauntlet of whatever of the teams you might end up playing in the Bahamas Classic, including Arizona State, is one game you know for sure. We're now joined by Hall of Fame writer John McClain, first week of the NFL season. All right, John, you ready? I know this is like Christmas to you, is it not?
David, it is, even though I'm old and I've been doing this for decades. Every year I get fired up for the start of the season. Two best times of the season, start of regular season, start of the playoffs, and I'm pretty sure that's not something I'll be getting excited about this season.
John, who is a team you think will disappoint people this year, and who's one that you think will surprise people?
I picked, and I'm not really sure why, I just tried to be a little different. I picked Cleveland to win the Super Bowl over Green Bay in our football section. It came out Sunday. Those stories are on our sports website, TexasSportsNation.com. And I also picked Atlanta to win a wild card berth. I just didn't want to keep picking the same teams, which is very easy to do. Pick the Cowboys to win the NFC East, but that's no surprise. I'm amazed when people continue to pick Washington and say Washington's going to be better. I don't see better could be 8-9 or 9-8, but I think the Cowboys are going to win that division. And a lot of people are down on the Steelers. I didn't have them making a playoffs. Not really sure why. I think Rams are going to win the NFC West. And there's some bad divisions, including the one I covered in the AFC South, because you got Houston and Jacksonville, two of the worst teams in the league. But there'll be teams, Paul, that pop up and make us scratch our head because that happens every year.
And, John, those Jaguars and Texans meet in game number 1. So somebody is guaranteed to get a win here as Urban Meyer makes his regular season debut. And obviously Texans with a new face on the sidelines as well, David Culley. So your thoughts on Jacksonville and the Texans?
Craig, the Texans need to win this game more than the Jaguars. Even though the Jaguars were 1-15 last year, the Texans swept them. The Texans have beaten them every game since 2017. Trevor Lawrence is a rookie starter, and Urban Meyer is making his NFL debut. The Jaguars are 3-point favorites, which shows the lack of respect the Texans get from the odds makers, as well as around the NFL, where everybody picks the Texans to have the worst team in the league. I have them starting 2-1 and finishing 5-12, and that's only if Tennessee rested starters in the last game. Otherwise, I have a 4-13, but they need to win this game. They've only played one rookie quarterback in the first game in their team history, and that was 2009 when they played the Jets and Mark Sanchez. Texans were favored under Gary Kubiak in NRG Stadium, and not only did they lose, they got humiliated. Let's see what that score was. I can't remember what that score was. It was 24-7, and then the only time they've opened against the Jaguars was 2017, also in NRG Stadium. They got beat 29-7. Jaguars went on to the AFC Championship game, and then they went straight down the toilet, and that's why Urban Meyer has come out of retirement to coach in the NFL and see if he can be successful like Jimmy Johnson, or he'll want to get out pretty fast like Nick Saban.
Do you expect to see Matt Rule and Carolina take a sizable jump this year, or do they still not have the horses?
No, I don't think they will. I think they wanted Deshaun Watson real bad, and they still might. But Sam Darnold was 38th in passer rating last year. A lot of people think Joe Brady, their quarterback coach and offensive coordinator, did such a good job with Joe Burrow at LSU 2 years ago that he will straighten Sam Darnold out, and he very well might. And I picked the Texans to win that game here, third week of the season, because it's early in the season. Darnold may not be straightened out. If he is, plus it's here, only Texans game they play in prime time. I don't see Carolina winning more than 5 or 6 games. They get Christian McCaffrey back. They came here 2 years ago, and they beat the Texans. Deshaun Watson was so bad long after the game ended, his quarterback guru from Atlanta, Quincy Avery, comes to all of his games. They were out on the field about 3 hours after the game. He was throwing routes, and Avery was working with him, and we saw it up in the press box. Got beat by Kyle Allen, the immortal Kyle Allen. So they're playing the game against Carolina because that was the team that was inserted as the 17th game this season. And the Panthers should win, but I just don't see them being a factor in the NFC West yet. NFC South.
John, on Monday Night Football, since we won't talk to you before then, Baltimore and Las Vegas. I was curious, what are your thoughts on Gruden entering this season, and do you expect Vegas to – obviously the Chiefs are in that division just for starters, but is Vegas climbing under Gruden, or are they kind of in neutral?
Craig, they've added a lot of talent with John Gruden and Mike Mayock as GM. Gruden has final say on everything. He's had 3 seasons. He's not had a winning record. I don't have them in the playoffs. I think that probably wouldn't surprise me if we don't see Mike Mayock back in TV next year, that they'll say, okay, somebody's got to go, and it won't be Gruden. And maybe Gruden gets tired of losing or not. Maybe he gets tired of not winning. People are fired up playing that stadium with a crowd, and maybe that'll make a difference. But they haven't done a lot with the talent they brought in. And some of the talent they brought in was very highly rated coming out of college, but it just hasn't worked out for some of those highly rated players.
John, last question. We got about a minute here. Is there anything negative to a 17-game season?
Nobody can finish 500, and I have a hard time talking about that. I've been saying, well, this team can finish 500, that team can finish 500, and all I know is no team can finish 500.
Unless there's 8-1. Right? There's maybe.
Yeah, but that's a great point in the tie game. But I think, though, you're right. They could. Yeah, I'm an idiot.
No. I just thought about that. I'm a math guy, so that just popped into my head. You can bring that up next time now on your other shows.
I am not a math guy. I can tell you guys that, and Sycamore.
Thank you very much, John McClain, Houston Chronicle, with us every Tuesday around 5:30 when we come back.
That Texans-Jags game.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's like crap fighting vomit.
Oh, my gosh. No kidding.
This Saturday, Brazos Parking, which is right down the street, we have a location. Jared Butler, Davion Mitchell, and Maceo Teague will be in attendance from 3:30 to 5 prior to the Baylor-Texas Southern game. That's this Saturday.
It's like 2/3 of the NBA and the Utah Jazz.
No autographs. It's a unique opportunity to take your picture or selfie with 3 of the most celebrated players in the Baylor men's basketball history off their national championship. Brought to you by Extraco Banks and Alliance Bank, Central Texas. Also, of course, BrazosParking.com for more information. You can reserve what you need there. That's this Saturday, 3:30 to 5. And those 3 stars, Jared Butler, Davion Mitchell, Maceo Teague, in a meet and greet coming up this Saturday afternoon before Baylor and Texas Southern. Paul Catalina's Top 5 is next. Had Dr. Gunn in studio from Impact Research Institute last week. And we were able to it's a very complicated what they're doing. Now, it's not. It's simple, really. It's non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is what they're trying to focus on and trying to help you with. But at times I even told Dr. Gunn, it gets a little bit complicated when you start talking about medicine, when you start about medical stuff. And so she came in studio, and the bottom line is this. They're trying to make sure that if, in fact, you have fatty liver disease, you know about it. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, it could come from diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, and obesity. It's not if you're 50 and older. It's not if you're older, if you're a man or a woman. It hits everybody. And the bottom line is that they are doing health screenings at Impact Research Institute. Dr. Gunn and her staff are doing screenings for non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And then if it needs to go to another level, then they can get an MRI from one of our other great sponsors, Ideal MRI. Dr. Gunn wants to help. If you listen to her, and we're going to play some of that along the way, she wants to make sure you understand this is a problem. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is a problem. They're offering screenings. Their location on Fish Pond Road in Waco.
At Baylor University, students find their place to shine. They're faithful friends and inspirational leaders. They're championship teammates and independent thinkers. They're on the cutting edge of high tech and in the halls of history. If you want to make the world a brighter place, you can. And if you want to shine in your own way, you can. The spark you need is already inside you. Bring it to Baylor, where lights shine bright.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Grant Dideker, under the umbrella of Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. And you have this umbrella. We mentioned the umbrella of Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, but you serve more than just like home insurance, or you have all sorts of different levels of different things you cover.
Yeah.
How much does that help?
I talked to a guy today. He has, Allstate on his car, Progressive boat, and, Farmers on his home. So I said, why don't you, do you know your agents? No, I just called the 800 number. Why don't you just let me quote that and we can have it all here. It makes it a lot less complicated for you. He really liked that. We have auto, home, life, several different brokerage options, classic cars. Got to ride in a 1978 Ferrari one time.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. If someone wants to contact you, just straight on your cell phone?
Yep, 254-265-0442.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, a McLennan County agent.
Escape the mundane with the responsive power and exhilarating agility of a new Cadillac from Richard Car Cadillac. Smile behind the wheel again in the supercharged sophistication of a CT4 or CT5 sedan, or the sporty and spacious XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs. Starting at only $33,395, the Cadillac of your dreams is waiting now at an affordable price at Richard Car. Test drive from the expansive selection at Richard Car Cadillac, or let us bring a test drive to you. Go to richardcarcadillac.com to schedule a test drive today.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sycamore 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55. Presented by Slapsticks Comedy Club. For ticket information, go to slapstickscomedy.com.
Top 5 bad Week 1 losses in college football.
All
right. Number 5, Indiana punished by Iowa.
Yeah, just
punished.
It's going to be hard to get over.
Two defensive touchdowns, same guy. I mean, just punished.
You know, you kind of figure when a starting quarterback comes back, that doesn't mean the rest of the team's also coming back in tow. But, as Michael Penix just kind of thought, like, they'll probably just keep in stride. No. No. And it was more like old Indiana football rather than 2020 Indiana football. Big win for the Hawkeyes. And I was surprised that was not a little bit of a closer game.
Yeah. Number 4, look, I've always wondered in the Wizard of Oz, Lions and Tigers and Bears, oh my, who would win in an actual fight of Lions and Tigers and Bears? Well, between Tigers and Bears, which is a Bruin, LSU got mauled.
Yeah.
By the and physically dominated.
Yeah, and there was that video of him walking into the tunnel with the team walks
with
in.
your sissy blue shirt,
UCLA's making millions probably off of sissy blue T-shirts now. Because
they've already trolled him. They've already started to troll him. Let's see here. I just saw. There's a sissy blue T-shirt.
Yeah.
If you look at UCLA's football page right now on Twitter, the banner or whatever is a Jordan shirt that's baby blue and says sissy blue, and the U is the UCLA U. So they've already taken full advantage of playing off of that.
That's an amazing campus.
Yeah. Oh, UCLA, that's really cool.
Yes, it is. Yes,
really cool.
It is.
What do you mean?
I mean, what a win for UCLA. I mean, that's big time for Chip Kelly. He needed something like that. And what a bad loss for Orgeron, who, I think the heat's starting to crank up a lot for him. How much was him? How much was Joe Burrow? How much was Dave Aranda? How much was Joe Brady? And we'll find out the rest of the way. I mean, it's game 1. You lost to UCLA. You didn't lose to South Alabama or something. But, no, there's definitely problems in Tigerland, and we'll see where it goes for the Bruins.
Yeah, number 3, this one's not an actual game loss. This is just a player loss.
Yeah.
Minnesota losing Ibrahim. Mohamed Ibrahim is tough. I mean, that was the guy who made their whole offense go, and the P.J. Fleck is going to need a lot more people to row that stupid boat now that Ibrahim is gone. So
what would you have done?
Oh, God.
And not even know he was a part of but what would you have done if he was here?
P.J. Fleck. Yeah, are you asking about P.J. Fleck?
Yeah, Paul you would melt. You would have ended up buddies with him.
It would just be awkward, is what it would be.
It would be weird, and because
You're like Craig and Gary Patterson.
No, that's true. Yeah, that's true though. Like I just dismiss people, and I'm like, whatever. I know that's not the right way to do it, but that's just my personality. Paul becomes friends with everybody, so by the end of it, him and PJ would be in a boat on the Brazos over there, rowing right along with each other.
Look, I'd give him a chance to win me over, but I do think he's the human motivational cat poster.
Yes,
that's what he is.
That's fine. Yeah, that's more than a fine comparison.
Well, let me put it this way: I wish he was in Lincoln.
Yeah, well.
I mean, he's done a nice job there. He's made them relevant.
There are a lot of Nebraska boards right now with coaching odds on who the next guy is going to be. A lot of Willie Fritz love, I'm sure.
I would just absolutely the Tulane, not just because of Oklahoma. The guy's won at the JUCO level. He's won wherever he's been. They play a good style. I would love that. But we'll see if Frost ever leaves first.
When Baylor was looking for their next head coach, when they hired Aranda, I mean, Willie Fritz was somebody who I was like, that might be kind of interesting.
Look at his track record. I like the guy.
Yeah. Yep. Number 2, and this should be number 1, except for the number 1 is kind of a massive all-inclusive. Washington loses to Montana, which I wish I should have tuned in to Softy on Monday.
Oh, my God.
I
Let's
should have
get him
tuned
on.
in.
Podcast.
Let's get him on. Just
Podcast is up there.
We could get him on YouTube because he can, and we're online because we don't have to edit him or bleep him.
Yeah, no,
that's right. Yeah.
Look, I think back to the question. Like Sark jumped his ass after the Alamo Bowl
for asking about the defense.
About the defense, and then I can't imagine what he had to say about this.
I got to text him here in just a second.
Yeah,
he is the best ever.
Yeah,
Dave Sophomore covers University. He is unbelievable.
He tweets a lot, so I'm trying to go back and find what he might have been saying.
He might not be around. We might have lost him.
Exploded.
He might. Yeah. All right, Paul.
You got something, Craig?
Yeah, he was just saying, I had a hard time using injuries at wide receiver as an excuse for what happened Saturday. Washington knew 3 of them out before the game started, and they likely knew days before the game as well. So forget all that. And I'm sure he's got a bunch more throughout. Yeah, there's a bat smashing a windshield gif. So yeah, he reacted a little bit on Saturday.
Yeah. All right, and number 1, the ACC loses to everyone except West Virginia. Well, no, that's Big Ten. Never mind. I always think of Maryland, but yeah, the ACC lost to everyone. UNC, North Carolina, Clemson.
So whoever won was against each other?
Pretty much. I mean, they lost. I think they won. Let me pull up. I had the schedule up here earlier, and I clicked off it like an idiot.
No, yeah, NC State won.
Yeah,
they beat South Florida.
Beat the hell out of them.
Yeah, they blew them out. But yeah, and then Vatek and North Carolina played obviously, so Vatek got that one.
Duke lost to Charlotte. Wake Forest beat Old Dominion. Alabama, threw Miami in a wood chipper, then picked up the pieces and threw them back in the wood chipper.
Pittsburgh won.
Yeah. Boston College beat Colgate. Pittsburgh beat UMass.
Yeah.
Syracuse beat Ohio. But Georgia Tech lost to Northern Illinois.
Pittsburgh plays Tennessee this week, don't they?
And Ole Miss beat Louisville. So, yeah, the ACC had a really rough week. Anytime the ACC had a marquee chance to look good, they did not.
Yeah, no, their big brands did not fare very well. It would have been big to have like Clemson or someone. But, man, how about freaking Ole Miss just beating the daylights out of Louisville and doing it with the Prowls offense.
I think that Scott Satterfield is on the hottest seat in the whole country. He made it very well known he wanted that South Carolina job. Those fans are already still scarred from Bobby Petrino and what he did to them with the Falcons job. They'll never forget that. Satterfield should have known that, and he should not have put his name out there unless he was going to get that job. He is in some trouble in Louisville.
Yeah, Ole Miss will be fun to watch, man.
Oh, thank you to everyone in the chat room. Of course, the text line, the callers as well. Paul got a mean little picture from the Notre Dame fan, our good friend from the 902.
Hey, you know what, though? We started off talking about that. I know we got to go. What a great freaking game.
It was.
Great atmosphere.
God
and to
almighty.
see the Noel chop. And
I started wanting that badly.
Yeah, and then Mackenzie freaking Milton, we didn't even said his name on the show today. I mean, to come in and, faltered at the end, but to have that moment that he had and almost pull it off.
The ghost of Bobby Bowden, the comeback, the miracle man. And then you have, of course, what Notre Dame brings to the table with all of their aura and history and prestige. It was great. I bet Bobby was looking down. He was upset they lost, but smiling because Doak Campbell was rocking. Yeah. All right, we got to go. Thanks to our guests today, J.J. Joe, David Hellman, Kennington Smith III, James Crepia, John McClain. Tomorrow we're expecting to have Baylor's Director of Athletics, Mac Rhodes, on the show, and a couple of other pretty good guests as well.
Can he talk expansion?
I hope so. Kirby Hocutt won't shut up, so why not Mac Rhodes?
Let's ask him 5 questions that don't have to do with expansion and see if it messes with his head.
So tell me about acrobatics and tumbling.
How do you feel about the expansion of Title IX?
Yeah. For Paul Catalina, for Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. To Hayden Bumpus, Jack's on his way to practice. Jack McKenzie's there for media. And Armstrong Sims, thank you. All of you, every one of you, even the ones we argue with. Yes, you too. We love you, man. Sycamore 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.